The Clash of Titans, Wang Wei vs. Ji Song. Wang Wei observed Ji Song with a pensive gaze. The wounds that had marred his opponent's body only moments ago had vanished, yet Wang Wei was certain Ji Song had not relied on his own regenerative abilities. Instead, Ji Song had drawn energy from the earth to restore himself. This revelation piqued Wang Wei's interest. While wood was traditionally associated with healing, earth had its own unique restorative properties. Throughout history, many cultures believed that humans were born from the earth and would ultimately return to it. The land nurtured, protected, and healed those who walked upon it. Ji Song's cultivation method was likely built upon this profound philosophy. After recalling everything he knew about the great Zhou imperial dynasty, Wang Wei's lips curled into a smirk. If your mastery of the myriad Earth Codex is only at this level, then you are destined to lose this battle. Ji Song, however, remained unfazed. He merely shrugged, his voice cold. You're the one who should be worried. From what I've seen, the ancient desolate body refining scripture is wasted on the likes of you. Wang Wei let out a chuckle, his eyes gleaming with amusement. And yet, this waste nearly killed you with a single punch. Veins bulged on Ji Song's forehead, his mouth twitching. A year ago, he would have immediately erupted in fury at such a taunt. But now, he forced himself to calm down, his rage simmering beneath the surface. Then, his rock armor began to manifest once again. This time, it was different. Molten red lines traced intricate patterns across the armor's surface, and what was once dull gray now turned into a deep, smoldering crimson. Two jagged horns sprouted from Ji Song's forehead, and the frozen ground beneath him melted instantly, turning into a bubbling pool of lava. Wang Wei's eyes narrowed. It wasn't Ji Song's transformation that surprised him, it was his reaction. During their last encounter, Ji Song had been easily provoked. But now, in just a few seconds, he had steadied his emotions. That was when Wang Wei realized something important. It wasn't just him who had grown stronger over the years. His rivals had too. All of them had learned, adapted, and honed their skills through experience and failure. And in the end, the one who could grow the fastest, the one who could adapt the quickest, would be the last one standing in the heavenward battle. But for now, Wang Wei dismissed these thoughts and refocused on the fight. He exploded forward, closing the distance in a heartbeat. His fist clenched tight. Earthquake fist. A devastating punch tore through the air, aiming straight for Ji Song. But Ji Song was ready. His right hand morphed into molten magma, and with equal ferocity, he threw his own punch. Boom. The moment their fists collided, a massive shockwave erupted, sending tremors across the entire northern region of the Warring Kingdom world. The very land quaked, and those unfortunate enough to be nearby lost their footing as the force rippled outward. A towering mushroom cloud of dust and energy soared into the sky. It was as if a nuclear explosion had just gone off. The aftermath of the clash. In the epicenter of destruction, Wang Wei slid back a few steps, his body coated in magma, but not a single scratch marred his skin. Ji Song, however, remained in place. Yet a second later, he spat out a mouthful of blood. But Wang Wei didn't let up. Before Ji Song could recover, Wang Wei's divine veins ignited. His next move was already in motion. Lion Fist. A massive lion materialized, roaring fiercely as it lunged toward Ji Song. But it wasn't just an ordinary attack. Wang Wei had fused his earthquake fist's vibrations into the lion's roaring sound waves, amplifying their destructive force. Ji Song's eardrums burst. His internal organs trembled violently. But he refused to fall. With a roar of defiance, Ji Song opened his mouth and unleashed a torrent of burning lava. Boom! The clash of soundwave and molten flame ignited a second explosion. Wang Wei barely had time to shield himself, using both his origin chi and the surrounding spiritual chi to form a defensive barrier. But instead of waiting out the destruction, he charged forward, bursting through the flames head-on. Through the smoke and fire, he appeared before Ji-song in an instant. Tiger Fist. A ferocious tiger emerged from Wang Wei's punch, exuding an overwhelming killing intent. For less than a second, Ji-song's senses went blank. A momentary trance. But that moment was all Wang Wei needed. The tiger turned into a blinding red streak, piercing toward Ji-song's chest like an unrelenting spear. Ji-song's armor thickened instinctively, buying him just enough time to shift the attack's trajectory. Pest. The red light pierced straight through his right arm. Blood gushed into the air. Yet Ji-song did not scream. He did not retreat. Instead, he countered. With a single stomp, he shattered the ground beneath them. A moment later, the earth itself cracked open. A volcanic eruption surged beneath Wang Wei, engulfing him in searing flames. Ji-song watched intently, breathing heavily as he willed his wounded arm to regenerate. But something was wrong. His healing was slower than usual. A powerful will was interfering with the recovery process. Wang Wei's attack hadn't just wounded him. It had left behind an intent designed to block his healing. Gritting his teeth, Ji-song focused on forcing the will out. And then, the volcano's eruption ceased. And emerging from the flames and smoke, floating high above, was Wang Wei. Untouched. Ji-song's face darkened. His attack had broken Wang Wei's protective aura. But it hadn't even scratched his skin. Unacceptable. Unbelievable. How? How could the same opponent who struggled against him a few decades ago now be this powerful? Unwilling to accept it, Ji-song went all out. His black lava armor expanded, growing from 10 meters to 20 meters tall. And then, he attacked. With each devastating punch, meteors manifested in the sky. Burning, roaring, spiraling toward Wang Wei at breakneck speed. These were not ordinary meteors. They carried a destructive will, an intent to annihilate all existence. But Wang Wei, he merely tightened his fists. And with sheer force alone, he created air bullets, bending the air pressure to his will. The first meteor shattered instantly. Then the second. Then the third. But soon, the onslaught overwhelmed him. One by one, the meteors rained down, slamming into Wang Wei's form. Boom. 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 A final explosion sent him hurtling through the sky, crashing into a distant mountain. The peak collapsed instantly. Ji-song panted, sweat and blood dripping from his body. His gaze remained fixed on the destruction. Waiting. Watching. Had his attack finally landed? The turning point, from endurance to domination. Ji-song stood atop the scorched battlefield, his eyes locked onto the distant mountain where Wang Wei had crashed. The once frozen expanse of the northern region had been completely transformed. Lava flowed like rivers, consuming everything in its path. The once pristine white landscape was now a hellish sea of molten rock, patches of charred debris scattered throughout. Clouds of thick black smoke rose toward the heavens, darkening the sky. Ash filled the air, suffocating anything that still dared to cling to life. Yet, Ji-song did not care. His gaze remained fixed on the shattered mountain. Then, boom. A shockwave erupted, obliterating the remaining debris, as Wang Wei emerged, floating above the destruction. His upper garments were burned away, revealing his sculpted 8-pack abdomen and steel-like physique. His long silver-gray hair swayed in the wind, untouched by the chaos around him. Ji-song's face darkened inside his rock armor. Even after all that, his opponent stood unscathed. Ji-song clenched his fists and forced himself to remain calm. There was no more time for hesitation. He had one final card to play. Without warning, he leapt thousands of meters into the air, flipping midair before diving down with a powerful leg drop kick. Straight toward Wang Wei. Wang Wei, still standing on the lava as if it were a mere hot spring, tightened his fists. His muscles flexed, power surging through his body as he met the attack head-on with a punch. Boom! A deafening explosion followed their clash, the ground below shattering instantly. Cracks spread outward in a web-like formation, stretching over 1,000 meters. This time, Wang Wei vomited a mouthful of blood. But Ji-song did not give him a chance to breathe. Another punch. Wang Wei instinctively tried to counter, but suddenly, his body felt heavy. His movements slowed. It was as if he had been trapped in a quagmire, every action feeling like he was trying to swim through an ocean of stone. Ji-song's punch landed directly over his heart. Boom! Blood spewed from Wang Wei's mouth as he was sent hurtling thousands of kilometers away, his body skidding across the volcanic wasteland. Finally, he managed to stabilize himself, feet digging into the charred earth. He spat onto the ground, only for his blood and saliva to evaporate before touching the molten surface. Wiping his mouth, he looked up at Ji-song. "You can control gravity." His tone remained calm, but there was a newfound sharpness in his gaze. Ji-song did not respond. But Wang Wei already understood. The damage he suffered wasn't because Ji-song had overpowered his physical defense. No. Ji-song's gravity manipulation had allowed him to bypass Wang Wei's defenses and directly crush his internal organs. Even worse, Ji-song had redirected the force of gravity itself to amplify his attacks, increasing their destructive power exponentially. This fight had just become much more difficult. Yet Wang Wei did not retreat. Instead, a sudden idea flickered in his mind. His breathing changed. Then, without hesitation, he soared into the sky, closing in on Ji-song. Ji-song met him midair, his gravity control instantly activating. Wang Wei's movements stiffened, slowing down once again. Seizing the moment, Ji-song struck. Boom! Wang Wei was blasted back down, his impact creating a lava tsunami that swallowed the battlefield. He coughed up more blood, feeling the invasive ash seeping into his lungs, wreaking havoc inside his body. Ji-song, however, did not let up. By reversing gravity downward, he accelerated. Mach 5. 5 sonic booms erupted in his wake, his fist slamming into Wang Wei's gut with devastating force. Crack! The sound of shattering bones filled the air. Wang Wei vomited blood and fragments of his organs, his body trembling from the damage. Before he could react, Ji-song kicked him upward, sending him flying once more. Wang Wei gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stabilize midair. But Ji-song was relentless. He closed in instantly, preparing another strike. Wang Wei crossed his arms in defense. Boom! This time, he was only pushed back a few meters. But Ji-song simply increased the gravity. Boom! Wang Wei was sent flying again, coughing up blood. Even so, his body healed itself at an inhuman speed. His bones realigned. His organs regenerated. Still, the battle was taking its toll. The breaking point. The entire northern region was beyond recognition. The landscape was destroyed. A once thriving region had been reduced to nothing but molten rock. The shockwaves alone from their battle had wiped out hundreds of thousands of lives, beasts, people, even insects and plant life. Only cultivators at the divine body realm and above could hope to survive near the battlefield. Yet, Ji-song felt uneasy. Each time he attacked, Wang Wei refused to stay down. Worse, with every exchange, Ji-song found himself having to increase gravity just to keep up. Something wasn't right. Ji-song roared, gathering every ounce of his power. Gravity implosion. He clenched his fist and the world collapsed. Wang Wei was trapped. The force of gravity compressed from all directions, above, below, from every side. The air warped and trembled, the space itself threatening to crack. Inside the crushing force, Wang Wei's bones shattered. His muscles tore apart. Yet, He did not scream. Instead, his breathing remained steady. A grin formed on his face. And then, he fought back. Wang Wei stretched out his hands, resisting the collapsing gravity. His body shook violently as veins bulged across his skin. The sheer pressure should have turned him into paste. Yet he was enduring. No. He was growing. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged into his body. At first, he was forced to one knee. But then, he stood. Then, with a mighty roar, he tore through the gravity field with his bare hands. The world shuddered at his defiance. Ji-song's face turned pale. You used my gravity to temper your body. To refine your internal organs. Wang Wei smirked, stretching his arms. I was going to do it eventually. I just decided to speed up the process. With his muscles and bones strengthened, and his internal organs now tempered, his body had ascended to an even greater level. More importantly, his killing intent surged. He met Ji-song's gaze, his eyes sharp. Are you prepared to experience hell?
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Despite the fact that Wang Wei allied himself to be injured in order to increase the strength of his fleshly body, he did not like the feeling of being abused by his opponent. So his pettiness got the best of him as he decided to pay back tenfold, hundredfold to Ji-song. After saying these words, a powerful aura suddenly emanated out of Wang Wei, then the heaven changed. The sky of the entire warring kingdom world suddenly turned deep gray, the same color as Wang Wei's hair. Then, lightning clouds suddenly covered the entire world. All the people suddenly felt that the end of the world was happening. A supreme aura traveled throughout the world, forcing the majority of people, or beasts to kneel down, including all the cultivators. There were only a handful of people capable of still standing, however, they still had to endure a powerful suppression. Great Xia dynasty, Li Jun and Yan Liling felt the pressure, and they both had a frown on their face. Is that? Asked Yan Liling. Yes, that's Big Brother Wang Wei's aura. I've never seen him so worked up. I suddenly felt sorry for Crown Prince Ji-song, replied. Are you saying that His Majesty did this? Asked Dong Lifen, who was kneeling on the ground. To which, Li Jun just nodded as he did not want to waste that much energy talking. As for Dong Lifen, she had a shocked look on her face. Although she knew that Wang Wei was powerful, it wasn't until today that she knew how powerful he was. To be able to create celestial phenomena just because of his mood, this was the powers of gods and immortals in legends. After thinking about this, a desolate mood suddenly appeared on Dong Lifen's face. Great Shu Dynasty. Feng Heng was sweating as he looked at his subordinates that were forced to kneel on the ground. He wanted to do something, but he was also bearing tremendous pressure, so he went back into his temple and activated all the formation. Feng Heng then sighed in relief. Afterwards he called out, Master, what is going on? Shi Fuyu then appeared with a frown on his face. He waved his hand, then a scream of the battle between Wang Wei and Ji-song appeared inside the temple. Meanwhile, in the northern lava region, Ji-song instinctively took a step back after feeling the aura coming out of Wang Wei's body, then he instantly shrugged off the pressure that surrounded him. As for Wang Wei, he did not say anything more. He clenched his hand, then took the posture of a punch. The space around suddenly vibrated with the contraction of his muscles. He roared, wind calamity, before throwing the punch. Boom! A massive explosion occurred, following which, millions of black winds appeared before forming countless cyclones, tornadoes, or hurricanes. And all these natural phenomena were actually thousands of kilometers in size or height. Wang Wei's punch created countless rapidly moving windstorms that twisted themselves in all directions, wishing to destroy or cut everything in their paths. As for Ji-song, he found himself surrounded by many powerful disasters that wanted to cut him into tiny pieces. So, without hesitation, he waved his hand to create a barrier around him. However, this was no ordinary barrier, but one created by pushing the gravity outwards from him in all directions, thus preventing the black winds from even touching him. Unfortunately for Ji-song, his gravity shield only lasted a few seconds before it was cut apart by countless wind blades, then the attack reached him. Boom! Another explosion occurred. The black winds became even more erratic after hitting the target. The majority of the land of the northern region had countless deep cuts on them. Some of them were so deep that they formed ravines. As for Ji-song, who was in the center of the attack, he managed to survive, however he was quite miserable. His armor was completely destroyed, many deep-cut wounds could be seen all over his body, some of them even showed his bones. However, this was not the worst part of his wounds. One of his arms was cut off and blood was gushing out of it like a fountain. Ji-song instantly used his origin chi to stop the bleeding before doing an inhaling motion with his mouth. He wanted to absorb the life energy of the earth in order to heal himself. Unfortunately, he did not reach the realm where he can regrow his limbs. As a matter of fact, even Wang Wei has not reached this stage, and won't reach it until he finishes refining his bones. After realizing this, Ji-song then used lava to create a prosthetic arm for himself. Although it was not as good as his real one, it would have to do for now. Meanwhile, Wang Wei had already launched his second attack. The attack he used this time was called Thunder Calamity. After throwing that punch, thunder and lightning enveloped the entire northern region, turning it into a thunder field. And all of these thunder had one purpose, to destroy Ji-song. Even the clouds in the sky started raining thunder. Ji-song immediately used all the lava on the floor to wrap around him, and turned into a rock cocoon. On top of that, he also used his gravity field. However, the thunder was not playing around. It destroyed the gravity protection, then the earth shield before hitting Ji-song, destroying every part of his body. An intense pain suddenly assaulted him, as he felt that every part of him was slowly burning. In the end, Ji-song screamed out loud for a long time before the attack stopped. By then, all his skin and muscle was burned black by the lightning, leaving lightning-shaped scar all over his back and front. Meanwhile, Wang Wei took a very brief moment to admire these two powerful attacks that he learned from the ancient desolate body refining scripture over the past few years. Since his body skin and muscle used both wind and lightning to temper them, there are techniques in the scripture on how to use these elements as a form of attack. Previously, Wang Wei did not completely learn about them, but managed to comprehend them fully during his retreat in chaotic space. After that, Wang Wei used the thunder in his muscle to boost his speed. With more than 7 booms, he reached Mach 7 speed and instantly appeared in front of Ji-song and grabbed him by his head, before flying into the air. Ji-song took the opportunity to attack Wang Wei with another gravity punch, however his attack had no effect this time. Wang Wei's innate field detached itself from his skin, and turned into a shield that blocked the attack. Ji-song was surprised as he never saw this field behave this way before. Of course he did not know that this was an ability that Wang Wei just developed after the beating he received. Despite his failure, Ji-song did not stop. He continued to attack the innate field, however, it was of no use. Wang Wei dragged him by the face into the sky, then he rushed straight into the ground with all his force. Boom! Wang Wei slammed Ji-song on the ground with tremendous power, creating powerful shockwaves that traveled. The shockwave was so powerful that it did not stop after traveling throughout the entire northern region, but also headed to the central region. If that shockwave even hit that area, countless people would die as a result. Luckily for Wang Wei, true monarch Yan Chen intervened in time, and prevented it from reaching beyond the northern region. As for Ji-song, he screamed again as most of the bones in his body were crushed. He threw out a big mouthful of blood. Many of his internal organs were out of place. However, Wang Wei was not done. He picked up Ji-sing from the ground and threw him in the air, then he threw another punch. This time he combined the Thunder Calamity with his Dragon Sovereign Fist. As such, a powerful thunder dragon a few kilometers long manifested itself. It brought with it the pride and aloofness of a divine beast, while at the same time representing the might of heaven and earth. The dragon rushed straight towards Ji-song, wishing to destroy him in both body and soul, wanting to destroy every single aspect of his existence. However, right before it did so, a giant illusory image appeared from Ji-song's body and protected him from the majority of the damage. As such, only one of his legs was completely ripped off by the dragon before he landed on the ground. As for Wang Wei, he frowned after seeing this, as he could feel a familiar feeling from this illusory image that appeared. It was as if he knew or saw that person before. Although Wang Wei had a feeling that he knew the figure that appeared was too vague for him to actually remember who it was, so he did not dwell too much on it. He figured that he would know soon enough. As for Ji-song, he was currently on the verge of death. Most of his organs, bones, and muscles were destroyed, 2 of his limbs were cut off, and his spirit was affected by the might of the dragon. However, he still had a calm look on his face. To be precise, he had a determined look in his eyes. So he bit the tip of his tongue to take out a drop of his source blood. Using that as a catalyst, he launched a secret technique called Dead Earth. Following this, countless green lights started entering Ji-song's body, repairing every part of it. In just a few seconds, all his bones were regrown and placed back together. New organs and muscles appeared, even his cut-off arm and leg were also grown back. Ji-song returned to peak conditions. However, he was not happy. For one, he knew that he would face backlash for using this secret technique. More importantly, the vitality of the entire northern region was absorbed by Ji-song. As a result, from now on, the northern land would be truly a barren land, preventing anything from growing or surviving there for thousands of years, or maybe forever. This act was different from Ji-song's previous destruction of this area due to lava. Even in such hard conditions as boiling lava, many plants would manage to survive and thrive in such an area. Especially fire or extreme young spiritual herbs, even ores would also be created in such an environment. However, with Ji-song's secret method, none of that will be possible from now on. The northern region will be more barren than the western desert. This act resulted in Ji-song being rejected by Heavenly Tao. As such, he knew that he did not have much time. What's more, even if he won this battle, he won't be able to stay in this world for long. So he did not waste time before using a powerful attack. With a wave of his hand, he roared a gravity push, then a powerful gravity force traveled from him, destroying everything in all directions. This attack was essentially Ji-song's gravity shield expanding outwards, destroying everything in its path. However, Wang Wei did not care about this attack. With his hair floating in the air, he clenched his hand and threw another punch. Dragon Wind Calamity. A very long black dragon appeared from Wang Wei and rushed straight towards Ji-song. It easily tore through his attack and rushed at him. Without hesitation, Ji-song instantly compressed the air around him before exploding, creating an air pressure bomb. Boom! With an explosion, the entire northern region shook again, and Ji-song was pushed away by the recoil of the explosion. A few hundred meters from the epicenter, Ji-song threw a mouthful of blood as he frowned. He realized that his regular attacks did not have much effect, so he decided to use the most powerful attacks he could muster. With a wave of his hand, the entire northern region started to tremble, then it was separated from the ground. Ji-song lifted the entire northern region, which was a piece of land larger in circumference than a few planet Earths combined together. Then, with a wave of his hand, the piece of continent broke into countless small pieces, forming countless flaming meteorites. Meteor rain, roared Ji-song, then waved all these meteors towards Wang Wei. This was not a normal meteor shower, but one that Ji-song used gravity to accelerate their traveling speed. Wang Wei raised his head in the air to look at all the flashing lights coming towards him. It was a beautiful sight, as Wang Wei had never witnessed a meteor shower before, let alone having one thrown at him. After taking a brief moment to admire the view, Wang Wei also prepared to use his most powerful attack. This attack was an upgraded version of his earthquake fist that he just created. Wang Wei started to mobilize all the vibration from his body, whether it was his near-neutron star-dense skin, his diamond-strong muscle, or his steel-like bones, they all vibrated rapidly. And he did not stop there. The innate field around him also started vibrating, along with the thunder and wind lodged in his skin and muscles. Heck, even his soul also vibrated at a rapid rate. Then, he concentrated all these vibrations in his fist, and threw a punch as he roared. World-breaking fist. The moment that Wang Wei threw that punch, everything in the world became silent. For a brief moment, all the birds stopped chirping, the flowers stopped swaying, insects lost their ability to flap their wings and humans lost the ability to speak. Then, the entire world turned black, losing its light. All that happened in just a blink of an eye. Then, the entire world started shaking. Whether it was the eastern region where the Great Xia was located, or the central region, where the Great Shu and Great Zhou dominate, everything started shaking. Following which, all kinds of natural disasters began. Earthquakes appeared everywhere, tsunami could be seen all over the eastern coasts, volcanoes started to erupt, tornadoes or cyclones were formed all over the central region. Meanwhile, sandstorms ravaged the western desert. Space cracks started to appear all over what remained of the northern region. Many people were about to be killed as a result of these catastrophes. At that time, in the endless void, both true monarch Yan Chen and Ji Han's face instantly changed after seeing this, so they acted immediately. They waved their hands, then the entire warring kingdom's small thousand world, and all the people inside shrink into a hand-sized ball, then with another wave of their hands, countless runes appeared around the crystal-clear ball that was actually an entire world. After doing this, all the natural disasters that plagued this world subsided, saving the lives of its inhabitants. Yan Chen sighed in relief before grinning widely. Then he said, I cannot believe that the young master's attack actually reached the destruction level of the primordial spirit realm. Originally, we refined this world to be able to bear peak divine body realm level attacks, but it seemed that this was not enough. While Yan Chen was happily chatting to himself, Ji Han had an ugly look in his face, as his heaven chosen was the one to face such an attack. Back to the battle. After Wang Wei threw that heaven-defying punch, the meteor shower launched by Ji Song was completely annihilated. There was not even a speck of dust left, they were completely atomized by the vibration created by that attack. And it was not just them that were completely annihilated. Even the space around Wang Wei was also mostly destroyed, creating a vacuum void full of chaotic space energy floating in the northern region. Normally speaking, only cultivators in the void-shattered realm can actually break space, hence the name. However, due to the fact that Wang Wei's attack exceeded this world's bearing capacity, space was thus shattered. As for Ji Song, he still managed to survive somehow. Right before the attack hit him, the same illusory image appeared to protect him again. This time, Wang Wei managed to see what it was. Retire Prince Ji Xiang, muttered Wang Wei. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said in shock, Dharma body. The reason that he was surprised was because the illusory image that appeared to protect Ji Song actually resembled the Supreme Realm's Dharma body. After thinking for a few minutes, Wang Wei guessed the gist of things. He guessed that true monarch Ji Xiang must have used a secret method to sacrifice himself in order to heal Ji Song's foundation that was ruined back in the Spirit Road trial. This was proof due to the fact that Ji Xiang never showed up after that incident, and the fact that there was a vision in the central continent signifying the death of a Supreme Realm powerhouse. At that time, many people went to investigate and found nothing including the Tao opening sect's shadow of this generation. However, divination did reveal that the dead Supreme was related to the Great Zhou Imperial dynasty. So after seeing this Dharma body on Ji Song, Wang Wei suddenly put two and two together. Ji Xiang's secret method not only repaired and improved Ji Song's foundation, but also granted him with an entire Dharma body, meaning a complete Tao was given to Ji Song. So in the future, when he broke through the Supreme Realm, he will have two Dharma bodies, which is an unprecedented feat. After thinking about these for a few seconds, he looked at Ji Song's body that was floating in the void. He was in terrible shape. 3 of his limbs were completely gone, leaving only his left leg. His internal organs and bones were totally liquefied, leaving only his skull, and a bag of skin still intact, floating in the air. By all accounts he should be dead, but a powerful force was protecting his head and soul, then providing him with a powerful life force to keep him breathing. Wang Wei looked in one direction before saying out loud, "I know that you are here, so come out." Immediately afterwards, a shadow appeared not far in front of Wang Wei. The person that appeared in front of Wang Wei was of course Ji Song's big brother, Ji Su. He witnessed the entire battle in order to prevent the worst from happening to his brother. Ji Su looked at the terrible sight of his brother with a sigh. During his battle, his little brother was completely outmatched in every way. The worst part is the fact that his opponent did not use all his strength. By now, it is already common knowledge that Wang Wei is a young emperor, and every young emperor contained a pseudo-domain-like ability. However, he did not use that even once during that fight. Although Jisoo knew that his little brother had prepared on how to deal with that ability, it was not certain how effective the method would be and whether it would affect the outcome of the battle. After sighing a few more times, Jisoo took out a saint pill and fed it to Ji Song. The pill's only purpose is to keep alive for as long as possible, so that he can properly heal after returning back home. All this time, Jisoo looked at Wang Wei with the utmost vigilance. Any sudden movement will prompt him to instantly react. However, Wang Wei just smiled nonchalantly before saying, "You do not need to be vigilant. Even with your peak divine body realm cultivation, you are not my match. If I wanted to do something, you could not stop me." Jisoo frowned after hearing this, but he did not say anything, and he still remained vigilant. He was not afraid of a confrontation. After witnessing that battle, he knew that Wang Wei's attack or destructive ability had reached the lowest threshold of the primordial spirit realm. However, there is still much instability with his strength. Although his destructive power and defense have reached that level, his stamina and more importantly, his speed, have not reached that level. So, Jisoo is confident that with his cultivation level in the peak divine body realm, as long as he uses a few techniques, his speed can reach that level and he can run away with his brother if necessary. So, after pondering for a few seconds, he said, "You are the winner of this battle. According to our agreement, the territories of Great Zhou belong to you." After saying this, he crushed a talisman, then he and his brother were swallowed by a space crack. Meanwhile, Wang Wei sighed after seeing this. The truth of the matter is that he was not in the best shape as well. Although he was not injured, his entire body was aching after he threw that last punch. He even had a terrible headache, signaling that even his spirit was greatly fatigued. On top of that, Wang Wei was actually in quite the conundrum. His ability to fly was due to his terrible control of spiritual energy between heaven and earth. However, there was currently no such thing as spiritual energy around him. His last attack created a vacuum environment, meaning there was no spiritual energy, no gravity. So Wang Wei was just floating in empty space. His powerful fleshly body allows him to breathe there, and his innate field prevents him from floating away. However, he could not fly, so he was literally stuck there. On top of that, his stamina was at an all-time low, so Wang Wei discovered to his embarrassment that he was actually stuck there. So he decided to use a communication talisman to call someone to come pick him up. However, before he did so, Wang Ju appeared in front of him. Wang Wei sighed in relief after seeing her, and asked to be carried away. And Wang Ju happily obliged. She then placed him on her back and flew towards the central region. "This reminded me of old times when you used to carry me everywhere," said Wang Wei as he placed a bunch of pills inside his mouth. "Now that young master has the ability to fly, of course you no longer need this maid to carry you everywhere." "I will always need you in one way or another," replied Wang Wei as he closed his eyes and rested on her back. Meanwhile, Wang Ju had a smile on her usually calm face. This journey was supposed to be a long one, as it was a little hard for Wang Ju to fly in a vacuum space with her cultivation in the early stage of the divine body realm. However, midway through, the space around her twisted, then she instantly appeared in the Great Xia capital. She guessed that this was probably the doing of true monarch Yan Chen, so she bowed to the sky before heading straight to the imperial palace. Meanwhile, Wang Wei and Ji Song's battle had a far-lasting impact that the two of them were even aware of. Many people, sects or factions of the myriad emperor world were secretly watching this battle. And they were shocked. Not just at Wang Wei's power, but even at Ji Song's strength. This battle showed that the heaven chosen of this generation have the ability to fight 3 great realms above them, which was unheard of. The only person who could do such a thing in the last generation was probably Wang Tian, but even he did not accomplish this feat, until he created his Absolute Cut Sword Sutra, and reached the peak of the supernatural realm. And that was because sword cultivators are known for their extreme ways of attack. So whether it was Ji Song or Wang Wei, they both were in the radar of all the factions of the myriad emperor world. Qilan Central Continent, Fong family domain, in a very large mansion. Fong Lijuan had just finished watching that battle, and she secretly clenched her hand. Compared to those 2 people, her strength that she is so proud of is nothing but a complete joke. Luckily, for her, there is still hope. After thinking about this, she looked at the talisman in her hand, and her cold eyes lit up. As long as she can thoroughly study this talisman and absorb its strength for her own, she can create her own Tao, thus severing the shackles of her bloodline. So Fong Lijuan closed her eyes and began to understand, or be enlightened on this talisman. Huang family domain, Huang Min had also just finished watching the terrifying battle. His face was extremely pale, while his face had an ugly look on it. Immediately afterwards, he called one of his maids and asked what was the result. Young master, the Fong clan hesitated at first, pondering whether to accept our request. However, suddenly, they changed their mind and decided to protect Fong Lijuan at all cost, even if they have to go to war with our Huang clan. Huang Min frowned after hearing this before asking, what about the response of our Huang clan? The clan does not seem to want to go to war with the Fong clan. How come? Well, your father the patriarch wanted to fight with the Fong clan, however, the grand elder strongly disagreed. Damn stupid uncle, why does he oppose father at every turn? Replied Huang Min with veins popping of his forehead. What reason did he use to prevent the war? The maid lowered her head after hearing this question, then she said, the great elder said it was not worth it for the clan to go to war and waste so many resources for a wasteful person, isn't it? Asked Huang Min with red eyes and gritted teeth. A person who has their bloodline destroyed is a waste, isn't it? The maid lowered her head and did not say anything. As such, Huang Min then waved his hand to dismiss her. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man appeared in Huang Min's room. It was his father. So Huang Min rushed to meet him with a look of expectancy on his face. However, his father just sighed and shook his head, an act which made Huang Min's face become very ugly. His father then said, the Fong clan seemed adamant in supporting Fong Lijuan for this generation's heaven will battle. But why? Didn't they see the battle between those 2? Could they really believe that Fong Lijuan has any chance at all? Who knows, shrugged his father. It may be because an eternal emperor might appear in this generation, so they wanted to take their chances. Or Fong Lijuan might have acquired something in that trial that boosted their confidence. In the end, what truly matters is the fact that they are more than willing to go to war with us in order to protect her. Huang Min looked at his father with bloodshot eyes for a few seconds before taking a deep breath, then he asked, what about the issue of my bloodline? After hearing this question, Huang Min's father just sighed again before saying, I'm afraid that there is nothing the clan can do about this. The herb used on you is a very rare and extinct one. As such, the herbs needed to create an antidote are also extinct long ago. Since the poison herb was found in the Warring Kingdom world, couldn't the ones for the antidote be also found there? Things are not as simple as you make it out to be, replied Huang Min's father with a sigh. According to our agreement, the final winner of the trial will get control over the entire small thousand world. At this rate, it is obvious that the sacred son of the Tao opening sect will be the final winner. Do you think that the Tao opening sect will allow our Huang clan to go hunting for precious herbs in their territory? What's more, even if we get the herbs, who would refine the antidote for you? You know that the only powerful alchemist in our clan belonged to your uncle's faction. So what am I going to do now? Huang Min's father patted his shoulder before saying, you do not have to worry. With me here, nothing will happen to you, and you can live a life without any care or worries." After saying that, Huang Min's father left. As he walked away, he could hear the sound of things being destroyed or thrown all over. He sighed but continued on his way. Meanwhile, in the herd-raising valley, Lu Meishio also just finished watching the battle between Ji Song and Wang Wei. She too was surprised by the immense power displayed by her peers. As such, she had a deep frown on her face for a few minutes after the battle ended, then she sneered before saying, "Do you think everything is over because I left the trial?" Warring Kingdom World, Great Xia Dynasty. Wang Wei spent a few days inside his cultivation room to heal his injuries and recuperate his lost stamina. Of course, Wang Wei was not just doing this, but also reviewing what he learned during this battle. Afterwards, he exited his room. However, on his way he saw Dong Lifen waiting outside the room for him. It seemed that she had been waiting for quite some time. "What are you doing here?" he asked her. "Your Majesty, I was just worried about you." After hearing this, Wang Wei looked her up and down before sighing, then he asked her to join him for tea. After brewing and drinking the tea, Wang Wei got right to the point and was quite direct as he said, "I can feel that you have some feeling towards me. However, what I said to you when we first met is true." Don Lifen lowered her head after hearing this, then she asked in a lowered voice, "Is it because of my low status? Does your Majesty hate that I am weak and not worthy of you?" Wang Wei was a little surprised at the question, but he shook his head before saying, "I have never judged a person based on their background. Furthermore, with your talent, as long as you arrived in my world, many powerful sects would be more than happy to make you their heir, thus your status would be the same as mine. And with high status and plenty of resources, your strength will of course increase dramatically." "Then, if it is not humble birth, could it be that I'm not beautiful enough?" asked Dong Lifen with her head still lowered. "I'm not that superficial," replied Wang Wei with a sigh. "The truth of the matter is I believe that a fated person is out there waiting for me. Although I know that it is a little ironic coming from the guy whose Tao involved controlling his own fate, and the fate of myriad worlds and races, but when it comes to love, I still believe in fate. I believe that when I meet that person for the first time, I will instantly know that she was meant for me, that we belong together. Many might argue that this kind of love is superficial and shallow, but I still believe in it. I still believe that she and I will be together for eternity, that she will accompany me in my pursuit of the end of the Tao. And not just as my wife but as my equal, as my companion, as a fellow pursuer of the truth." After saying this, the face of someone suddenly appeared in his mind. Even with Wang Wei's unforgettable memory, the face was quite vague or blurred. However, he had a feeling that he would instinctively recognize that person the day that they actually met. Meanwhile, Dong Lifen was surprised by Wang Wei's words as she had never seen him like this. More often, he gave her the feeling that he was mighty and strong, that nothing could truly bother, that he had a solution to every problem. After thinking about this, she sighed before saying, "Well, whoever this woman is, she will be the luckiest woman in the world to have your Majesty's affection." "I'm the one who will be lucky," replied Wang Wei with a smile on his face. After that, the two of them drank their tea in silence. In the end, Dong Lifen got up to leave. However, Wang Wei stopped her one last time and said, "I can see that you have a very ambitious side when it comes to cultivating and pursuing the Tao, so let me give you a piece of advice. If you truly want to go far in the path of cultivating, do not let anyone dictate your worth. Whether it is societal customs, your origin or birth, heaven and earth and even me. You alone can determine what you are worth, what you are capable of and what height you can reach." Dong Lifen's eyes lit up after hearing this as he realized the importance of these words. She decided to remember them and meditate on them when she has time. As such, she bowed politely to Wang Wei before leaving with fast and steady strides. After finishing his discussion with Dong Lifen, Wang Wei went out to deal with the affairs of the dynasty. His territory has just been exponentially increased, as such, there are many things left for him to deal with. Meanwhile, in the Great Shu dynasty, Feng Hing had also watched the battle between Ji Song and Wang Wei. At first, he was also shocked but eventually calmed himself down. However, he noticed that his master seemed unsettled the entire time. So he finally asked the reason. "Disciple, I think you are in trouble," said Shifuyu with a frown on his face. "Master, what do you mean?" After thinking for a few seconds, he replied, "This Wang Wei reminds me of a young version of your sect's ancestor. The absolute beginning emperor." "Yes. Master, since you were alive back then, what kind of person was your ancestor?" "Not a lot of records are left about him in the sect." After pondering for a while, Shifuyu asked, "Tell me what you know." "All I know is the fact that the ancestor's real name was Li Tai's Huang, and he took the name Absolute Beginning after proving the Tao. And he is most famous for ending the incense/faith era." Shifuyu nodded before continuing. "Things were not as simple as you state. Back then, during the incense era, Buddhism reigned supreme throughout the entire world. Due to the technique of absorbing faith or incense power, the cultivation speed of most Buddhist cultivators was faster, and they had more strength than other people even commonly to the heaven chosens of that era. During that time, even the Tao opening sect was nothing, as they only had 3 great emperors by the end of the incense era. Although there were countless different sects or philosophies of Buddhism, they were still united when facing outsiders. The only group that could compete with Buddhism back then was the heaven race or God race. God race? Do you mean the divine clan of the Divine Tao League? Asked Feng Heng with a puzzled look on his face, as he had never heard of any heaven race or God race. After seeing the puzzled look on his disciple's face, Shifuyu sighed melancholy before shaking his head. "No, they are different. As a matter of fact, the divine clans got the idea of inheriting bloodline from the heaven race. As for the heaven race, they were the physical manifestation of concepts like thunder, fire, water, earth, etc. As such, they were always referred to as thunder god, fire god, and so on. Isn't that the spirit race?" However, Shifuyu still shook his head before saying, "It's still different. The God race was created when countless mortals and cultivators prayed to a specific concept, such as praying to fire and treating it as a god. The incense power generated by all those people created a living being with unimaginable power that embodies all the prayers that people offered them, the God race. As for the spirit race, they were born by heaven and earth themselves through a long time, and using massive spiritual energy. Furthermore, spirit races still have to slowly cultivate, but the heaven race was born extremely powerful. The weakest one had the strength of the primordial spirit realm, while some were born with a cultivation of the supreme realm." Feng Heng nodded as he understood the difference between them. The spirit race was basically like demonic beasts that have turned into human shape and called themselves demon race. However, the spirit race is mostly made up of plants, stones, or weapons that have gained sentience and mold a human body. According to Feng Heng's knowledge, these individuals refused to acknowledge themselves as demon race, so they blended together to create the spirit race. After seeing that his disciple understood, Shifuyu continued, "The heaven race was able to compete with Buddhism at first because it was easier for them to absorb faith or incense power than any other cultivators." "At first?" "Yes. The Buddhist sects did not allow anyone to threaten their status, so they conceived a plan to weaken the power of the heaven race." "You should be aware of the conferred God list, right?" "Yes," responded Feng Heng while nodding his head. "That's the method that we used. By conferring the title of godhood to certain human cultivators, we can divide the power of the heaven race." "How to divide it?" "An example would be that a human was granted the title of fire god. When people pray to the fire god, who does the faith power go to? To the heaven race fire god, or the human race that holds the position of fire god?" Feng Heng's eyes lit up after hearing this as he realized that this was indeed a good way to weaken the power of the heaven race. Then he asked, "Master, if what you said is true, why didn't the other factions use faith? Why haven't I heard of the heaven race?" Shifuyu pondered for a while to reorganize his words, then he said, "At first, many people did absorb the power of faith to cultivate, especially in the early stage of the incense era. However, the power of faith and incense had repercussion or side effects." "Side effects?" "According to the records in the Profound Gate, faith and incense is very poisonous to the spirit." "Is that what you mean by repercussions?" asked Feng Heng. "It's not that simple. Do you know what faith actually is? No. Faith is basically the aggregation of spiritual power of countless people. For example, when someone prays to either offer worship to a higher being or to ask them for something, a part of their spiritual power will combine with the spiritual energy between heaven and earth to form the power of faith or incense. The negative side of this is the fact these spiritual powers are not pure, but full of emotions and desires. As a matter of fact, the power of faith was first discovered when a monk accidentally absorbed this power in a temple while breaking through the primordial spirit realm. That monk discovered that he could use the incense to go through the heart demon tribulation needed to turn his soul into a primordial spirit. Later, this method was used by Buddhist and other sects to make it easier to break through into that realm. However, faith is not only made of positive emotion or desire, but also negative one, which can easily affect a person's spirit, forcibly changing their nature. Especially later on in that era when Buddhist sect absorbed a massive amount of incense power. The majority of monks in that time became brutal and greedy. They would slaughter people for no reason. More importantly, they would enslave mortals to force them to pray and offer incense to them. Shifuyu paused for a moment, then took a short passage down memory lane. Meanwhile, Feng hurriedly asked, "So, how did the people of that time deal with the problem?" The question jolted Shifuyu from his memories. He smiled before answering, "This problem occurred in the early stage of the incense era, so I'm not very sure exactly what happened. What I do know was that it was solved by the karmic unbound emperor." Karmic unbound emperor? Never heard of him, replied Feng. Shifuyu paused for a moment after hearing this, then he looked at his disciple deeply. "Master, is there something wrong?" "No," replied Shifuyu as he secretly sighed. The karmic unbound emperor was actually the first Buddhist emperor of the incensed era. He created the karmic heavenly flame and passed it down to the world. As a result, the Buddhist sect could use this flame to burn out the impurities inside the incense power, thus making it easier to absorb. Since this flame has the name karma, does that mean it could be used to wash away the karma of the people who absorb incense power? Asked Feng. You are correct, however, incense is not as karmically binding as chi luck. As long as the person who absorbed the power accomplished the wish or desire of the people who prayed to them, they can still escape being bound by karma. Master, since the problem was solved, why did other people stop using that power? That's because the majority cultivator labeled the incense Tao as heretical or unorthodox. Not to mention that only the Buddhist sects had access to the heavenly karma flame. Furthermore, the flame did not completely solve the problem. At first everything was fine, however, the Buddhist sects decided to expand their borders to all the other worlds in the community. They not only preached the philosophy and ideas of Buddhism, but also used these worlds to gather a massive amount of faith. However, with this large amount of power, even the karmic flames could not remove all the impurities. At that time, the Buddhist sect began to fracture due to the internal contradiction. You mean infighting? Asked Feng with a surprised look on his face. Yes. The term Buddhist sect is used to refer to a coalition of all the different factions of that era that practiced the teachings of Buddha. So you can imagine the contradiction with so many emperor lineages collaborating together. So what caused the split between them? Well, one faction wanted to stop using incense power due to its harmful nature, or at the very least not absorb so much. The other faction was more aggressive and refused to stop. They believed that doing so would greatly decrease the power of the Buddhist sect. So, which faction won in the end? Asked Feng with an intrigued look on his face. At first, the peaceful faction had the advantage. After all, Buddhism is a sect that focuses on discovering the self, liberating the self from the sea of suffering and reaching nirvana. For most Buddhist cultivators at that time, the power of incense was just a means to achieve enlightenment at a more rapid pace, and help more people liberate themselves from their suffering. However, things rapidly changed. The radical faction conducted a ceremony that contacted a powerful being using a massive amount of incense power. That being then gifted that faction the Western Pure Bliss Land or Buddha world. Wait, Western Pure Bliss Land? Are you talking about one of the 6 forbidden lands? Asked Feng, visibly shocked. Shifuyu nodded before replying, now it is considered a forbidden land, but back then, it was not. Western Pure Bliss Land was the holy land of Buddhism. Just standing there, you could feel the powerful Buddha rhyme that increased understanding and enlightenment. At the center lies the Maitreya Bodhi tree, a very powerful spiritual tree that may have reached beyond the emperor tier. Anyone who meditated under it will have the Maitreya Buddha mother explaining the Tao to them herself. She was an unimaginable being that words alone could not express her sacredness. Just being in the divine presence of the Divine Mother Buddha was enough for any monk to know and experience what true nirvana was, even for a brief moment. A brief moment that all monks pursue for their entire lives, even willing to give their entire life, said Shifuyu with a twinkle in his eyes. What? Beyond Emperor tier. Master, does such a thing exist? Asked Feng Feng, all flustered. Shifuyu looked at his disciple, realizing that he must have said something that he should not, so he immediately said, "You do not need to think about these kinds of things that are outside of your capabilities." Feng Heng nodded mechanically, but the look of shock was still in his face. After seeing this, Shifuyu did not say anything, giving his disciple the chance to slowly process that information that he let slip. And this quiet lasted a few hours. Then Feng Heng took a deep breath to calm himself down before saying, "Master, so what happened between the contradiction of the two factions? And what does any of this have to do with my ancestor, the absolute beginning emperor?" Shifuyu looked up and down at his disciple. After noticing that he had relatively calmed down, he continued. "Well, after getting access to the Western Pure Bliss Land, the radical faction labeled the other faction as unorthodox and almost destroyed them. Luckily, the peaceful faction had previously taken control over the heavenly karmic flame, so they still found a way to survive." Master, wait, if the peaceful faction had control of the karmic flame, then how did the other faction refine their faith power? Well, Western Pure Bliss Land also had this ability, so they did not need it. Feng Heng nodded, then he asked, "So, what brought the destruction of Buddhism in the end? What about the heaven race you previously mentioned?" "Be patient, I'm getting there." After eliminating their competitors, the Buddhist sect began to gather incense using more radical means in order to power up the Western Pure Bliss Land. They mainly targeted the small 1,000 worlds in our community. By creating catastrophe, then sending a Buddhist emissary to save the world, they could gather very pure incense power. At that time, every time a Buddhist emperor managed to prove the Tao, he would lead the world to conquer other worlds in order to gather more faith. Of course, not all emperors born in that era belonged to the Buddhist sect. Other factions also managed to cultivate one of two emperors back then, and those emperors tried to deal with the Buddhist sect, but they were not strong enough, especially with the protection of the Western Pure Bliss Land. The only emperor that posed a threat back then was the ancient desolate emperor of the Tao opening sect. However, since he had some karma with Buddhism, he did not attack them, but instead made a deal with them not to do anything to his sect in exchange for his neutrality. All of these actions actually garnered the ire of all the factions of the world. However, everyone decided to close one eye because of how powerful the Buddhist sects were. However, when we created the One World Nirvana plan, everything changed. One World Nirvana plan? What's that? Asked Feng Heng. Just like the name implies, it was a plan that allowed all the Buddhist cultivators to all reach nirvana by combining all their consciousness together, thus reaching a realm, oneself, one being, or one world. That sounds like a brilliant plan, so why did it cause the destruction of Buddhism? It was indeed a brilliant plan, and one that had a high chance of success too. However, there were three major problems. One of was the energy needed to sustain such a powerful consciousness, second was a leader to bear such tremendous amounts of power, and lastly was whether heavenly Tao would allow such a thing to happen. The problem of leader could be solved as long as a powerful great emperor was born in the Buddhist sect. As for the other two problems, well, they both had the same solution, incense power. As long as the incense power was enough, the energy required for this plan to succeed was more than enough. As for heavenly Tao, the Buddhists believed that as long as reaching nirvana was the belief or desire of all living beings, heavenly Tao would not interfere. All living beings? You don't mean? Asked Feng Heng. Yes. The plan of the Buddhist sect was to conquer the entire myriad plane world, then gather faith from the entire world. Feng Heng looked at his teacher with his mouth open, becoming speechless. The entire myriad emperor world is vast and very powerful. Beside the human emperor, the world was only conquered once again in the devil era. Shifuyu could guess what his disciple was thinking. Yes, the Buddhist sect wanted to conquer the entire world, just the great Qin imperial dynasty. After calming himself down, he said, I'm guessing that they did not succeed. Even worse, they did not even begin their plan before they were destroyed. How come? The Buddhist sect knew that the cultivators of the world would never allow someone else to conquer the world like the human emperor, so this plan was kept the highest level of secret. They planned to only execute the plan after they cultivate a powerful great emperor. Unfortunately, the plan was leaked. Leaked? How? Asked Feng Heng. Well, this is where your ancestor came into this story. Shifuyu paused for a few seconds before continuing. In the ancient emperor era, both Taoism and Buddhist were actually competitor and fought for the title of the orthodox religion of the myriad emperor world. During that time, the five-element palace was the leader of Taoism, while the Tai Profound Gate was probably not even created yet. However, after the incense era, Taoism was completely suppressed by Buddhism to the point that the five-element palace was forced to close their mountains for generations, only coming out when they decided to fight for the heaven will battle. As such, the Tai Profound strived during the incense era with the absence of the five-element palace. However, they were only considered an immortal land, not an emperor lineage, as they did not cultivate a great emperor of their own. Immortal land, interrupted Feng Heng. Just know that they are more powerful than supreme land, but way weaker than emperor lineages. You will get access to this information when you become more powerful later in the future, replied Shifuyu, so he just nodded. Your ancestor actually got the news about the One World Nirvana plan from the Heaven race. How would the Heaven race get access to such a powerful secret? Let alone leak it. Shifuyu sighed before continuing. The plan actually needed a tremendous amount of faith, and as the Heaven race was born out of incense and faith, they were the perfect people to use as a catalyst to execute it. Furthermore, the Buddhist sect wanted allies before executing the plan. With this plan, the Heaven race would have access to a tremendous amount of incense power, as such they could deal with the problem of the low population of their race. So they were the perfect partner. As for your ancestor, no one knew his exact connection with the Heaven race. However, after finding out about the plan, he secretly rallied all the cultivators of the world against Buddhism. After a brief pause, Shifuyu continued, your ancestor was a heaven-defying genius with a deep and scheming mind. He was very low-key during his rise, and his reputation was not very loud. Everyone knew that he was powerful, but no one knew how powerful until the Heaven will battle. In that battle, the Buddhist sect had pooled together all their resources to cultivate a terrifying genius. Using all the incense power of the entire sect which, by that time, had spread through thousands upon thousands of worlds, they created a Buddha golden body. I remember that day when the golden body was completed. Buddha lights enveloped all the continents of the myriad emperor world along with multicolored lotus. The chant of countless people in myriad worlds chanting reverberated throughout the entire world community we are located in. It was truly a majestic sight. Unfortunately, it was useless, said Shifuyu with a sigh. Because of the ancestor. Yes, because of Li Tai's Huang. In that generation's Heaven will battle, he alone faced all the Heaven chosens of the Buddhist sect and killed all of them, even the one with the Buddha golden body. At one point, the owner of the golden body even sacrificed the lives of all the Heaven chosen to increase his strength. After all, he was the embodiment of the hope and wishes of all the Buddhist monks. He was the aspiration of an entire era. However, it was futile as he still failed under Li Tai's Huang's sword. After that, your ancestor proved the Tao and took the name of Absolute Beginning. Shifuyu took a few-second pause after talking up to here, then the hand that was behind his back was secretly clenched as he continued. Do you think that things are over? No, this was just the beginning. After proving the Tao, the Absolute Beginning Emperor showed his ruthless side. He rallied all the sects that he had previously contacted, and used the One World Nirvana plan, as an excuse to wage a terrible war against Buddhism. And he was relentless. The absolute beginning emperor seemed to have a terrible hatred for incense power, so he set out to completely eradicate Buddhism, and he succeeded. He destroyed all the Buddhist sect in the entire myriad emperor world. Even the countless emperor lineages were not spared. Even the heaven race was not spared from his wrath despite the fact that many of them still supported him. As for the Buddhist sect, no matter what method they used, it was simply useless. During that period, countless immortal venerable and Tao ancestors were killed and slaughtered. Many were left over by previous great emperors manifested themselves, but they were no match for the absolute beginning emperor. Even the Western Pure Bliss land was not spared as it was also destroyed by the absolute beginning emperor, and by that time, the Bliss land had actually evolved into a great thousand world, only a little smaller before reaching the size of a heavenward world like the myriad emperor world. Meanwhile, Feng Heng had twinkled in his eyes after hearing the exploits of his sect's ancestor. As for Shifuyu, the hand behind his back further clenched, showing red veins on them. But he still continued. Do you think this was the end? No, the absolute beginning emperor was truly relentless. Using his own Tao, he actually cut the absolute beginning of Buddhism, meaning he erased their origin from the world. So, disciple, what do you think happened to someone who has their beginning erased? They will cease to exist. Without beginning, there is no living and no eventual end, replied Feng Heng after thinking for a few seconds. That's correct. With this method, all history of Buddhism was erased from existence, all their knowledge and philosophy, all their cultivation techniques, all their accomplishments, and even all memories of them. Anything related to Buddhism was completely gone, wiped out. This is the reason that virtually nothing is known about Buddhism in this era. Feng Heng was shocked, then he quickly asked something. Wait, if what you said is true, there should not be any information whatsoever about Buddhism in this current era, yet there is still some news remaining about them floating. What's more, the Western Bliss Pure Land is still a forbidden land. Not to mention that there are still rumors about the famous Buddhist emperor scripture past, present, future Buddha scroll. The reason for that was a last resort of the Buddhist sect. At the last moment before their destruction, they sacrificed to the Maitreya Mother Buddha through a Bodhi tree seed that was saved. The purpose was to leave a future for Buddhism, and they received a positive answer. The absolute beginning emperor was furious and rushed in to completely destroy the remains of the Western Pure Bliss land, but he failed. He had a heaven-shattering battle with the will of the Maitreya Mother Buddha, but he lost and was greatly injured. What? The ancestor actually lost? Asked Feng Heng with a surprised look on his face. Yes, this was probably the only failure in his life. As a result of this, a few pieces of the history, an inheritance of Buddhism managed to survive the passage of time. Feng Heng nodded in acknowledgement before asking, but teacher, what does that have anything to do with Wang Wei? Let me ask you, you have read a lot of information about great emperors, do you think many of them were like the absolute beginning emperor? No, the majority of great emperors have left only a footnote in his history. As for the ones like my ancestor, there have been only a handful of them. And all of them displayed terrifying talents at a very young age. Wait, are you saying that Wang Wei reminds you of my ancestor? Shifuyu nodded before continuing. Whether it is strength, will, intelligence, and talent, this Wang Wei reminds me completely of the absolute beginning emperor. What's more, his Tao seemed to be more terrifying. In fact, Shifuyu did not tell his disciple the whole truth. As a matter of fact, he was a little scared of Wang Wei. The reason for that was that during that last strike, the world-breaking fist, he suddenly felt a terrifying fluctuation from Wang Wei. And Shifuyu had felt this fluctuation from the will of the Maitreya Mother Buddha, when she fought with the absolute beginning emperor. As such, he knew that Wang Wei probably had a terrible secret that even he himself might not know. As for Feng Heng, he became silent for a few seconds. Master, so what are you going to do? You should be asking yourself that question. In that case, let us continue with our original plan, replied Feng Heng after thinking for a few minutes. Back in the Great Xia dynasty, Wang Wei was frowning while looking at a bunch of papers. In the past few days, he was not in the best mood, and it was all because of paperwork. After winning his battle with Ji Song, the vast territory of the Great Zhou now belongs to him. However, it will still take some time before he settled all the people there, let alone made them have a sense of belonging with Great Xia. As a result, many rebellions occurred throughout his territory, so he had to dispatch the army to use force to eliminate these rebels. If it was in the past, Wang Wei might consider using less brutal means to deal with the situation, but now the end of the trial was rapidly approaching. He did not have time to play nice. Although Wang Wei was the final winner of the trial, he knew that his competitors would use the shortest amount of time to recuperate from their defeat, then strive to break through the supernatural realm as soon as possible. And if he wasted any more time in this world, he would be left behind. So he decided that all his plans must be accomplished in 5 years or less, then he will leave this world. Of course, dealing with the affairs of the dynasty was not the only reason that Wang Wei was in a bad mood. But because Yan Liling, his supposed chancellor, refused to help him. According to her, she was mad at the fact that he did not share his secret Longshu tea recipe with her. After hearing this, Wang Wei immediately blamed Li Jun for not being able to keep his mouth shut. I mean, doesn't he know to place his brother before his companion? I mean, they basically grew up together wearing the same diapers. Couldn't he keep his mouth shut? Wang Wei sighed while gritting his teeth. As a last resort, he had to ask Dong Lifen for help, an act which made him very embarrassed. After all, he had just basically rejected the poor girl, but now he was asking her to work for him. Wang Wei felt like a capitalist that exploited the people working for him. However, after seeing her working hard and not complaining, he removed the guilt he felt. He convinced himself that she enjoyed the work. One day while working in the Dragon Throne room, someone came in and told him that a special guest came to see him. It turns out the person was actually Feng Heng, the leader of the Great Shu dynasty. Wang Wei could not think of the reason that this guy showed up to meet him. However, he did not care. No one can stop from conquering this world. As such, the Great Shu dynasty is actually on its last breath, and it is only a matter of time before he conquers it. A few minutes later, Feng Heng entered the Dragon Throne room, then cupped his hand together to salute Wang Wei. However, one of the ministers of the court roared, "Bold! You dare not to properly salute His Majesty." However, Wang Wei waved the person off as he knew that Feng Heng just used the etiquette to indicate that he was treating him as the sacred son of the Dao opening sect, not the ruler of Great Xia. As a matter of fact, he did not really care about etiquette. As long as the person shows the necessary level of respect, everything is fine. As such, Wang Wei just observed this heaven chosen from the Tai profound gate from up to down. He noticed how this Feng Heng had a very peaceful and natural temperament, which symbolized that he has a high understanding of Taoism. Speaking of Taoism, Wang Wei knew a little bit as he had read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi in his previous life. Although he only did so to impress his boss, he still remembers them with his unforgettable memory. Furthermore, the origin path system that all the cultivators in the myriad emperor world cultivate borrow many ideas and philosophy from Taoism. After taking a brief moment to call this thing, he said, "So, Dao child Feng Heng, what brought you to my little dynasty? I'm here to make a deal with you." "Oh? Please say." "I will hand the entire Great Shu dynasty to you without fighting. In return, you have to give the position of national master and make Taoism the national religion of Great Xia." Wang Wei looked directly into Feng Heng's eyes for a few seconds before saying with a sneer, "You must be joking. I have done all of this work just to let you benefit for cheap. You value yourself too much." Wang Wei could guess this guy's plan. Let all the other heaven-chosen battle between themselves, then allies himself with the final winner. With the status of national master and the spread of religion, he can absorb as much chi luck as the final victor of the trial. No wonder this guy never actually made any move during the whole trial, thought Wang Wei secretly. He always wondered what Feng Heng's endgame was. During the whole trial, he had many opportunities to conquer more territories. As the first person to truly conquer a dynasty, he could have easily invaded the Great Wu back then and conquered them. Or he could have attacked the Great Zhou when they were fighting with the Great Wu. However, he did not do any of these. He remained neutral, just protecting his own territory. Now, it seemed that he was playing the long game. Meanwhile, Feng Heng was not that surprised that he was rejected, so he continued, "What if I add the western region?" "What do you mean?" asked Wang Wei with a frown. "During all my years in the trail, I have successfully spread Taoism throughout all the dynasties in the western region, and they are essentially under my control. I can see that you are the kind of person who likes to have the best when doing things, so you should strive to have a 7-color rainbow chi luck. However, to achieve that, you will need to conquer the entire world, even the western region." Wang Wei nodded in acknowledgement, then replied, "You are right, but I do not see where you matter in that situation. Even without you, I can still conquer the western region." "You are right, however things are not as simple as you think. To the desert people of the West, Taoism is not just a religion, but a form of salvation for their poor living environment, a kind of sustenance for their soul. So, anyone who threatens their belief, they will never accept it." "What does that have to do with you?" asked Wang Wei. However, he had an inkling what Feng Heng was about to say. "As the Taoist ancestor of this world, I have a lot of power," replied Feng Heng. "As long as I tell these people that the Great Xia is a threat to Taoism, millions of people will not hesitate to take arms and fight to the death against you. I mean, you can imagine the burst of power these people will bring out when believing that they are fighting for their religion, their beliefs, their ways of life." Feng Heng paused for a few seconds before continuing. "As a matter of fact, I know that despite all of this, your Great Xia will probably still win in the end. However, at what price? With the majority of people of the western region dead in a war, what is the point of you conquering that barren land? How long will it take to end such a war of faith? However, with my proposition, all of this can be avoided. You can easily conquer the entire world, and I will just benefit a little." Wang Wei had a pensive look on his face while tapping his finger on the armrest of his dragon throne. He realized what a brilliant move Feng Heng's plan was. Plus, he did not want to waste more unnecessary time on this trial. "However, I can agree with your proposition, but I have a few conditions." Feng Heng hurriedly said, "Please say." "First, you can only absorb enough chi luck to reach the 2-color rainbow level." "Impossible," replied Feng Heng. He did all of this work in order to achieve the highest result possible. How could he accept the bare minimum instead? As a matter of fact, if it was up to him, Feng Heng did not want to use this method. Unfortunately, the barrier between the peak purple gold chi luck and the 2-color rainbow is too vast for him to accomplish with the territory that he has control of. According to his master, a person has to conquer an entire small thousand world in order to break that barrier between those two levels. And if you want to reach higher levels like 3-color, 4-color and sun, you need more than just vast territory. You need to properly govern the people, make them happy and better. And even that can only guarantee a 6-color rainbow chi luck. If you want to reach the last color, you have to fundamentally change the world. So Feng Heng was very happy when Wang Wei was the final winner because according to the information he received, the people of Great Xia have very happy and fulfilling lives. "But now, either accept my condition, or we can go to war," said Wang Wei with a cold and ruthless tone. Meanwhile, Feng Heng had an ugly look on his face, while thinking about his options. Feng Heng thought about the situation for a good half-hour, then he said with gritted teeth, "Fine, I accept. What other conditions do you have?" As for Wang Wei, he just smiled after seeing this. "My second condition is actually very simple. I want to fight with you." "Fight me?" asked Feng Heng with a puzzled look. "Yes, I want to see whether you are worthy to negotiate with me on the same level." Feng Heng's face instantly became ugly again after hearing this. This was the first time that his peaceful mood changed so much in such a short time. He looked at Wang Wei with fire in his eyes. However, Wang Wei did not care, so he said, "You can't blame me for this, after all, no one has even seen you fight. How do I know you are not a sheep disguised as a tiger?" Feng Heng took a deep breath before calming himself down. Then he said, "I accept your challenge. In a forest not far from the Great Xia capital, both Wang Wei and Feng Heng stood not far from each other. Many people were standing far away, watching and commenting on the battle that was about to happen. "Who do you think will win?" asked Dong Lifen with a worrying look on her face. "Isn't it obvious?" replied Li Jun with a calm look on his face. He saw a recording of the battle between his big brother and Ji Song from Wangju, so he knew how powerful Wang Wei was. That battle also brought a lot of pressure to him, however he was also motivated to increase his strength. Furthermore, he decided to cultivate the Overlord Fist in order to refine a strong body for himself. Meanwhile, Wang Wei was looking his opponent up and down waiting to see what kind of method he would use, however his opponent seemed to be more patient than him, so he decided to attack. In an instant, Wang Wei appeared in front of Feng Heng, then punched him in his guts. However, a sudden cumulus cloud appeared to block the attack, but it was to no avail. Feng Heng was sent flying for more than a few hundred meters away, throwing up a mouthful of blood. However, midway through, his body suddenly turned as light as clouds, then he slowly floated in the air before stopping. Feng Heng wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth as he realizes that he underestimated his opponent despite the fact that he saw his true strength during the battle a few days ago. So he decided to take things seriously. With a wave of his hand, red clouds were condensed from the atmosphere, then they dropped like rain on Wang Wei. However, with just one punch in the air, a powerful shockwave dispersed these clouds. Immediately afterwards, Wang Wei flew straight towards his opponent and kicked him. Boom! Feng Heng was sent flying on the ground with tremendous force as he spewed out another mouthful of blood. Fortunately for him, a cumulus cloud appeared in front of him and blocked some of the attack. And this was not an ordinary cloud, but one that turned as dense as metal, but it was still no use under Wang Wei's kick. As for Feng Heng, he did not hit the ground as expected. He used the same previous tactic by turning his body as light clouds, then slowly landed on the floor. Feng Heng frowned as he looked at Wang Wei in the sky, then he used another attack. This time the clouds turned into a dead gray color before rushing straight towards Wang Wei, who just watched as the attack hit him without even leaving a single scratch on him. However, this attack was not a simple one as Wang Wei felt an extremely creepy energy trying to penetrate his soul and corrode it. He snorted coldly, then this energy was instantly vaporized. Then he looked at Feng Heng before saying, "Interesting use of yin and yang dao. Turning a cloud which is water in nature and imbued it with fire nature. Then, transform it from a weak substance into one as solid as metal, symbolizing the transformation of yin into yang. Not to mention the last attack that contained extreme yin nature, capable of directly attacking the soul. However, if this is all the strength you have, today's battle will officially be the worst day of your life." Feng Heng had a frown on his face. Not only because his attacks seemed to be useless, but because his opponent seemed to be able to read the nature of his attacks in just a few minutes. After thinking for a brief moment, he decided to use another tactic. With a wave of his hand, countless swords materialized in the air, then they rushed forwards. Meanwhile, Wang Wei looked at all the swords rushing towards him, and guessed that his opponent decided to use 5-element spells from now on. He was not that surprised as the Taoist sects are known for their amazing and wonderful spells. So he rushed straight towards Feng Heng, ignoring all the swords that hit him. These swords could not even break his innate field, let alone his skin. However, Feng Heng seemed to have anticipated this, so he moved away from Wang Wei. A burst of red clouds appeared under his feet. Swoosh! In an instant, he appeared a few hundred meters from Wang Wei. As a result, for a few minutes, a game of cat and mouse chase occurred in this battle. Wang Wei frowned as he observed this situation. He was quite surprised at how fast this Feng Heng actually was. Although he looked like he just teleported, Wang Wei knew that this was just because of how fast this guy moves so that it appears that way. Of course, this is not the reason that Wang Wei actually stopped chasing. The real reason was because one of Feng Heng's attacks managed to break through his innate field, and he was puzzled. According to the intensity of the attack, there is no way in a million years that such a level of power could break his defense. After pondering for a few seconds, Wang Wei once again rushed towards his enemy. This time he observed every single sword that hit. After a few 100,000 hit him, a slight break a few centimeters appeared in his innate field, then the swords hit his skin before being bounced off from it. Wang Wei stopped again and looked at Feng Heng and said, "You are the owner of the yin-yang eyes." A slight surprise appeared in Feng Heng's eyes before disappearing, then he said, "What are you talking about? Your attacks seem to be able to find the tiniest of flaws in my defense and attack them. These flaws are so small that even I did not notice them, yet you could see them and directly target them. Only the yin-yang eyes had such ability." "You are wrong," replied Feng Heng while shaking his head. "This is my natural innate ability, but I do not have the yin-yang eyes." Wang Wei looked at him deeply as he could not tell if this guy was telling the truth. The only thing he had to go on was the slight surprise in his eyes when he first mentioned this, but Feng Heng's soul fluctuation remained calm after he denied it. However, he remained suspicious. Wang Wei waved his palm, a giant blue dragon manifested, releasing a powerful suppression. And to his horror, Feng Heng found himself unable to move as Wang Wei rushed towards him. With a desperate attack, all the swords floating in the air turned into countless needles, then rushed forwards. Meanwhile, Wang Wei ignored these needles as he let them attack him. However, to his disappointment, none of them seemed to attack his weak point. So, lightning appeared on Wang Wei's body, then he instantly appeared in front of Feng Heng. He proceeded to slap him in the face. Bang! Feng Heng flew from the sky with tremendous speed and force. And this time, he did not have the ability to slow down his fall. Boom! After landing on the ground, a powerful shockwave traveled from his landing spot. Countless trees were destroyed, and a deep hole could be found with the shape of a human body could be seen from the air. After a few seconds, Feng Heng managed to unbury himself from deep underground, then he vomited blood for a few seconds. His face was slightly deformed as his skull was bulged inwards, and many of the teeth in his mouth had fallen off. He raised his head and looked at Wang Wei with gritted teeth, while the latter had a frown on his face. A few seconds later, Wang Wei said, "My final condition to accept your proposal is for you to use your innate ability to find the weakness in my defense." Feng Heng opened his mouth as if to refuse, then he closed his mouth with gritted teeth. Then he said, "No problem." After the battle, Wang Wei was sitting on his dragon throne with a pensive look on his face. After a few minutes he said, "What do you think?" After a brief silence, Li Jun opened his mouth. Something seemed wrong. Everyone then looked at him, so he further elaborated, "This guy Feng Heng seemed very weak for a heaven chosen." "Weak?" asked Dong Lifen, as she did not totally agree. In her opinion, the only reason that the battle ended so quickly was because of His Majesty's strength. Not weak per se, Li Jun tried to find the right words to express his feeling. More like he could not use all his strength. It was as if it was difficult to control his power. Wang Wei nodded in agreement. After seeing this, Yan Liling then asked, "Big brother Wang Wei, did you think of something?" "Yes, I just find this guy very suspicious," he replied. "Because of the yin-yang eyes?" "Yes." "Why would he hide such a thing?" asked Yan Liling with a confused look on her face. In fact, not just her, but everyone in the room who knew the importance of such a powerful physique had the same question. "Do you all remember what happened when Heavenly Tao acknowledged my physique, and the Heavenly Physique list appeared? What was the name after the yin-yang eyes?" "I remember that there were a bunch of question marks instead of a name," replied Li Jun with one arm crossed and another on his chin. Wang Wei nodded before continuing. At that time, many people believed that it showed that the yin-yang eyes did not appear in this generation, but what if that was not the case? Everyone except Dong Lifen had a frown on their face, contemplating the meaning of these words. "Young master, are you saying that the yin-yang eyes appeared in this generation, however there were some complications in the process? And that Feng Heng knows something about it?" asked Wang Ju, who was always very astute when it came to analyzing information. Wang Wei nodded in acknowledgement, an act which did not disperse the frown on everyone's face. If that was true, it meant that all the top 6 physiques in the heavenly list appeared, making this glorious age even more turbulent. Not to mention what kind of secrets that this heaven chosen of the Tai profound gate was hiding. Meanwhile, back in the Great Shu dynasty, Feng Hing used some secret methods to return on the same day after the battle. Even his injuries were partially healed. After entering his temple, he activated all the formation inside to isolate from the outside. Then, he started to freak out. "Master, master, master, come out," said Feng Hing in a rushed voice. Soon after, Shifuyu's primordial spirit appeared in front of him. "Master, do you think he knows the truth?" "Disciple, you need to calm down." "But master, he clearly noticed something wrong." Shifuyu sighed before saying, "I warned you not to use the power of your eyes in front of this Wang Wei, but you did not listen. I had no choice, otherwise, I would not even be able to even touch even once during the fight. What's more, it was you who told me to agree to his last condition. If you did not agree, he would have become even more suspicious of you. Based on what happened in the secret realm, you can see how cunning this Wang Wei actually is." Feng Hing clutched his fist, then he started walking back and forth in the room while muttering, "We are screwed, we are screwed. People will find out what we did, and the sect might even instantly kill us." Shifuyu looked at the state of his disciple, then he patted his shoulder. Suddenly, Feng Hing sensed something traveling throughout his mind, then he returned to his calm mood. Feng Hing sighed in relief, while Shifuyu asked, "Have you calmed down now?" "Yes." "That's good. Do you still have it with you?" Feng Hing nodded before taking out something from his body. However, that thing was covered by formation. After making a bunch of signs with his hand, the formation was lifted. There lied a human body that had a look of horror on its face despite the fact its two eye sockets were actually empty. What is worse is the fact that this child looks nothing but a 5-year-old boy. Both Shifuyu and Feng Hing looked at the body, however their reactions were different. Feng Hing's body trembled slightly after seeing it, and a look of regret could be seen in his eyes. However, his master just looked at the body with indifference. Shifuyu then said, "In order to properly get the yin-yang eyes as a physique, just taking the eyes is not enough. We need to find a way to swallow both the soul and source blood of the true owner. By then, no one will be able to tell the difference, and all the evidence will also be destroyed. So, all you have to do until then is to actually deny that you have any relationship with the yin-yang eyes." Feng Hing was silent for a few seconds before taking a deep breath. Since he had already done so much, there is no turning back for him. He will bear this sin for the rest of his life, as it was his decision to make no matter the consequences. Furthermore, as long as he can become a great emperor, who dares speak ill about his actions? After thinking about this, Feng Hing suddenly felt that his mind became more clear, then his peaceful mood turned into an indifferent one. Just now, his state of mind has reached a higher level. Shifuyu noticed his disciple's change, then he nodded in satisfaction. Even without a special physique, his disciple's talent can be ranked top-notch, and there was a reason he was chosen. Meanwhile, back in the Great Xia, while dealing with all the affairs of his territory, Wang Wei was planning another expedition. This time it was to the southern region, and he was leading it personally. The reason for doing this was one because he wanted more habitats for his people to live in, so taking control of the territory of the demonic beasts that is full of resources is the perfect place. Secondly, and the most important reason, was because he did not trust the demonic beast left in that area. Wang Wei always asked himself why Lu Meishio actually left so many demonic beasts alive in the southern region after leaving the trial. However, he could not think of the reason. So he decided to kill all of them so he did not have to worry about it again in the future. Under the leadership of Wang Wei, the Great Xia army started to ravage all the demonic beasts in the southern region, and Wang Wei was always at the head of the attacks. He used his true will ability to destroy the cultivation levels of all the demonic beasts in a large area, then these beasts were taken and stored for his future plan. Wang Wei used the wind calamity attack, thus ravaging all the demonic beasts in a few 100 miles radius. While watching all the cut-up corpses of these demonic beasts, he started to think to himself, "Am I being too harsh in killing all these demonic beasts? After all, they are still living beings and part of the natural flow of nature, so why should I kill all of them? Just because of my suspicions of Lumatio. My method seems too radical, and maybe I... Wait a minute, suddenly muttered Wang Wei out loud. Since when did I start to question myself like that? As a person who seeks to be free and unfettered, I should be able to do anything I please, whenever I please. I should have the freedom to base my actions solely based on my desires, so why would I care about the balance of heaven and earth by killing a few demonic beasts? Even if their number is in the millions. After saying this, Wang Wei suddenly felt a veil uplifted from his mind, making his thinking more clear. Despite this positive benefit, Wang Wei was not happy, which was evident by the frown on his face. He realized that a heart demon had just attacked him. Technically speaking, this was an impossible thing to happen, as heart demons only occurred to primordial spirit cultivators that have to go through heart tribulation. What's worse was the fact that Wang Wei knew that this was not the first time that this had happened to him. The first time he suffered from heart demon was when he first killed a person when he was a mortal. Back then, according to normal situations, after all he had gone through in the pagoda trial, he should have only suffered from discomfort after killing someone. However, he had nightmares for days instead. The first time that such a thing happened, Wang Wei might have considered it as a rare thing, but twice showed that something is wrong, so he started thinking of the reason for this to happen to him. The first thought that came to Wang Wei's mind was that someone was actually using some means to actually influence his state of mind. However, he quickly denied that idea. Back then he did not offend anyone. Well, given his status, maybe he did not need to. Nevertheless, he spent most of his time in the sect surrounded by some of the most powerful people in the world. If someone tried to deal with him, whether it was his mother, father, grandfather, or other elders of the sect, they would notice something wrong. And in this world, with the protection of his Dao protector Yan Chen, this situation is unlikely. The second possibility that Wang Wei thought of was that this was the hand of heavenly Dao. However, he still denied that possibility. When he first had his heart demon, he had not offended heavenly Dao yet. Additionally, with him passing the divine punishment thunder, he and heavenly Dao were somewhat even. Wang Wei knew that because of his transcendent Dao foundation, when he broke through the supernatural realm, his heavenly tribulation will not be a joke. However, that was still for the future. Not to mention the fact that heavenly Dao could not interfere with him all the way in this small thousand world. So it could be eliminated as a suspect. So the last possibility that he could think of was that this has something to do with his reincarnation. Maybe something happened to him when he was going through the process of going through samsara. After all, his massive soul power was gone during the process. Unfortunately, his memory of the experience was completely wiped out, so there was nothing he could currently do with his little strength. After thinking about this, Wang Wei realized how insignificant he truly was in the grand scheme of things. So he decided to rein in the little arrogance he had after defeating Ji Song. After taking a few moments to regain his bearings, Wang Wei then continued his expedition of the southern region. This time, he was even more brutal as he wanted to end this war as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Myriad Emperor World, Central Chilean Continent, Herd-Raising Valley. Lu Meishio's arm was already regrown back. However, upon further examination, it is easy to see that one of her arms had a different shade of color than the other. This was due to the fact that she still needed some time to train the regrown arm to be as strong as the other one. While cultivating, Lu Meishio suddenly opened her eyes with an ugly look on her face. The reason for that was that she felt that all the demonic beasts that she left in the Warring Kingdom world were slowly dying. So she yelled with gritted teeth, "Wang Wei." After this, her hatred for Wang Wei had dramatically increased. However, immediately afterwards, she calmed herself down and started thinking. She had made great plans for these demonic beasts in the southern region. As for the reason she left there, it was because she did not want her plans to attract the attention of certain people in the herd-raising valley. She thought that Wang Wei would just ignore these beasts, then her plan could continue in secret. However, her thought was completely wrong as she underestimated Wang Wei's careful nature and his ruthlessness. After thinking about it for a few minutes, she whispered to herself, in that case, let's execute the plan and move the experiment to the northern Black Tortoise continent, as there are plenty of demonic beasts to use. However, I need to be very careful not to draw the attention of any demon race imperial family, otherwise things will escalate out of my control. After thinking about this, she took out a token and notified her loyal servant to come meet her. They had things to do and needed the utmost secrecy. Back to the Warring Kingdom world, Wang Wei took a few months to destroy the majority of the demonic beasts in the southern region. After everything was over, he focused on his deal with Feng Heng. Under the cooperation of the two, the entire world was finally conquered and became peaceful in just 2 years. On this day, Feng Heng was standing on top of a Taoist temple in the Great Xia capital, which was moved in the past 2 years. In just 2 years, many of such temples were actually built, thus spreading Taoism throughout the whole world. So Feng Heng's mission in this world was over. After using a secret technique to check his luck, he looked at the 2 colors Chi dragon swimming on top of his head, then he sighed. Afterwards, he crushed a talisman and was swallowed by a space crack. Soon afterwards, Feng Heng found himself in front of his Tao protector, Wu Ming. Immediately, Feng Heng bowed to him before saying, "I'm sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" "You did your best, and your results are among the best in this trial," replied Wu Ming with a calm look on his face. "I know this. I am apologizing regarding the disappearance of the incense power." "Oh, you did not need to hurry about the sect's punishment, as I already knew that you did not absorb it. Furthermore, I scanned the entire world in search of it, and I did not even discover where it disappeared to. So the likely possibility is that this world's heavenly Tao absorbs this kind of power to test it, as this was the first time it appeared." Feng Heng nodded after hearing, and was also relieved. However, he had a feeling that things were not as simple as his Tao protector said. In the past 2 years, many temples have been built throughout Great Xia, however there has been no case of incense power going missing. He always felt something fishy was going on. It was as if the person responsible for stealing the incense faith was scared to absorb that power under the eye of Wang Wei. However, Feng Heng placed all these thoughts on the back of his head. All he cared about now was the fact that he was heading home. Meanwhile, back in the Great Xia, Wang Wei noticed that Feng Heng was gone, so he was relieved to go about his plans. He did not trust that guy a single bit. Although in the last 2 years, he used the excuse of using Feng Heng's innate ability to observe this guy in person, he did not discover anything. Luckily for him, he managed to remove all the tiny flaws in both his innate field and his skin. However, he did not do so for his muscles. He did not trust Feng Heng to this extent. After giving his orders to his subordinate, Wang Wei flew straight into the sky. When he reached the edge of the world, he used his token to send a message. Soon, true monarch Yan Chen appeared in front of him. "Young master, what can I do for you?" asked Yan Chen with a smile on his face. "Supreme Elder, I need you to send me to the sun," replied as he pointed in a direction. The reason that he needed help was because the sun of this world was located in a void place without spiritual energy, so he could not fly there by himself. Yan Chen's eyes lit up after hearing this as he thought of something. So he complied with a smile on his face. Standing on the surface of the sun, Wang Wei sat down and started refining his bones with the ancient desolate body refining scripture, as fire was the element needed to temper the bones. Furthermore, Wang Wei was preparing for when he needed to refine his heart in the future, as fire elements will also be needed. Just like that, Wang Wei spent another 2 years in the sun. In the process, he has reached the core of the sun with a temperature of millions. At this time, simple temperature has no effect on him. Only flames with special nature can still burn him. During the entire process, he had to burn or melt all 206 of his bones over and over, then regrow them again. The most dangerous part was when he had to melt his skull, almost frying his brain into paste. Luckily for him, there are many records of similar experiences in the scripture. After opening his eyes, Wang Wei felt that his strength had greatly increased again. Furthermore, as long as he absorbs the heavenly silver ore into his bones, the tempering of his bones will be over, and his strength will increase again. Wang Wei then woke up after finishing checking his bones, then he felt the beating of his heart. The beating was strong and steady, even more than before. Blood was rapidly traveling throughout every part of his body, thus increasing his regeneration ability. So Wang Wei nodded in satisfaction as he knew that he would save himself a lot of time in the future. Afterwards, he crushed a talisman that instantly teleported him back to the Great Xia capital, where he sent a notice to all his officials to come meet him for a meeting. Soon, all the officials including the member of his team and a court meeting took place. The first thing he said when the meeting started was, "Is everything prepared for my plan?" Many of the officials looked at Wang Wei with a happy look on their face, as they could not help themselves. The past few years have been the most fulfilling time of their lives. As high-ranking officials of Great Xia, they have slowly watched how a powerful and prosperous dynasty that covered the entire world took place even in the southern region. With Wang Wei's cleanup of the demonic beasts 4 years ago, the entire southern region was open to humans. As such, countless cities were built and many people migrated there under the incentive of the court. As a matter of fact, it was not that difficult to motivate the people as the southern region was full of fertile land, and was home to numerous spiritual herbs and ore. Many people suspect that the south was even richer than the central region when it comes to resources. Although the northern region was completely destroyed, no one really cares about this due to its barren nature. And now, with the return of His Majesty, the last place was about to have earth-shaking change, the western region. While these officials just noticed Wang Wei's return, people Li Jun and Yan Liling noticed the subtle difference and changes that occurs to him. They could see his long breath, and if they focused hard enough, they could even hear his heart beating. They all sighed as they realized that Wang Wei had gotten even stronger than before. While these people were observing him, Wang Wei was also doing the same thing. With his true vision ability, he easily noticed how both Li Jun and Yan Liling had acquired 5-color rainbow chi luck. As a matter of fact, even people like the 5-number general and the Iron Fist King, Tai Gang, had increased their luck to the beginning of purple gold. Of course, the person that surprised him the most was actually Dong Lifen. In the past 4 years, not only did she manage to reach the peak of the divine altar realm with 350 divine veins, she also reached a peak of purple gold chi luck. Wang Wei was not surprised by her cultivation level given her talent and the blessing of being the Empress of Great Xia, however, the chi luck level did surprise him. In order to achieve such a level, she must have contributed a lot to the dynasty in the past few years. However, he was also puzzled by the constant frown on her face. Then, Wang Wei secretly sighed as he looked at his black chi luck that was 99.99% turned back into purple. No matter what he did in the past few years, he did not make any progress at all. However, Wang Wei was not worried as he already had a plan that guaranteed his success, hence the question he previously asked. Wang Ji, who noticed that many of the officials were too excited to answer the previously asked question, stepped up and replied, "Your Majesty, according to your instruction, all the arrays have been set up." Wang Wei nodded as he also checked out his head maid. No, he should call her his shadow from now on. He could see that Wang Ju has also benefited greatly from the chi luck of the dynasty. Her divine body realm cultivation was more stable than before, and she seemed to have used the increase of comprehension brought by her position to understand the techniques she cultivated. He guessed that her cultivation would increase dramatically after returning home. After receiving a full report from Wang Ju, Wang Wei spent a few hours checking the situation of the dynasty during his absence. After checking that everything was normal, he headed straight for the western region. Once there, Wang Wei stood in the air, then waved his hand. He used all his 720 divine veins to control all the spiritual energy in the western region, then countless circular runes appeared in the air, surrounding the entire region. Under Wang Wei's control, these arrays started to absorb powerful energy from something buried underneath the soils or desert of the western region. If one person could observe closely, they would find out that the arrays were absorbing the blood, souls, and cultivation power of countless demonic beasts. And there were billions of them buried underneath the ground. After the array absorbed all those powers, something magical happened. The desert that has existed in the western region for millions of years suddenly started to turn into normal land. Mountains and rivers then started to appear in many different places. Many fertile and cultivable lands also manifested themselves. Then, the temperature of the desert started to cool down until it reached the normal level of the other regions. Following which, rain, which was a very rare thing, suddenly to fall everywhere. As a result, many trees suddenly grew widely in different places, creating vast and luscious forests. The last transformation to occur was the increase in spiritual energy from heaven and earth. As a matter of fact, the reason that such tremendous changes occurred was due to the resurgence of spiritual energy. What Wang Wei was doing was to essentially create and repair the spiritual veins located under the western region using the vitality of all the demonic beasts that were killed due to the beast tide a few years ago. By doing so, Wang Wei can rejuvenate the barren land of the western region. He got this idea from a great emperor of the D clan. At some point of time, the western White Tiger continent suffered a devastating catastrophe that left all the spiritual veins there completely destroyed, resulting in the spiritual energy in the western continent to become even less than the northern continent. Due to this, at some point things got so bad that the devil cultivators in the west wanted to wage a war against the demon race in the north to take over the continent. However, before things escalated to this point, a great emperor was born from the D clan. Using his amazing ability, he single-handedly fixed all the spiritual veins to the point that the spiritual energy between heaven and earth was recovered, but it even briefly surpassed the southern vermilion bird continent and almost reached the level of the eastern azure dragon continent. Of course, Wang Wei did not have the power of that great emperor, nor did he have such a deep understanding of feng shui to easily repair spiritual veins. So he used the blood, soul and vitality of demonic beasts as an energy source, then attached a powerful spirit-gathering formation where the spiritual veins are located. As for the already existing spiritual veins, the spirit-gathering array was attached to them as an aid to help them produce more spiritual energy. Due to this, the Great Xia dynasty had to spend countless resources and more than 2 years to set up these formations. And why did Wang Wei go through such great lengths to do such a thing? It was for the same reason that the great emperor of the D clan did: merit. Merit is a mysterious and almost omnipotent thing, so Wang Wei knew that this was the perfect thing to help with the problem of his qi luck. Soon after all the transformation of the western region finished, many people marveled with excitement on their faces. Then, many people kneeled on the ground with tears in their eyes while chanting, "Long live His Majesty." As a matter of fact, the lives of the western people have dramatically improved over the last few years as members of Great Xia. They never had to worry about food, water, or shelter. Even the horrible temperature of the desert was no longer a problem with constructs specially designed by the refining hall of Great Xia. However, compared to the lives of the other regions, the people of the Western people still felt a little inferior. After all, they live in a vast desert. As a result of this, it is very difficult to build roads or crawling dragon construct. They convinced themselves that everything was fine since they could still use the soaring phoenix construct to travel by air, but they always felt like their region was backwards. But now, things are different. They finally have the chance to modernize themselves completely, to become more like the central and eastern regions. As for Wang Wei, after finishing controlling the arrays, a sudden will suddenly manifested around. Then, golden clouds suddenly enveloped him, as he could feel that this will was showing its goodwill towards. Wang Wei knew that the heavenly Tao of this world was happy by his deed, and the golden lights that fell from the heaven and into his hand further proved his feeling. As such, Wang Wei looked in excitement at the golden lights in his hand. This amount of merit was a few times larger than the ones Lu Meishio received. Meaning, that even if he used it to change his qi luck, there should be more than enough as a reserve. After receiving the golden merit, Wang Wei did not absorb it directly in order to change his qi luck, but instead used it to increase his comprehension. After absorbing some of the merit, Wang Wei found that his mind started to work 100 times more rapidly. Adding on to his previous comprehension, Wang Wei could feel that his mind was working faster than a quantum computer. Many things that he did not previously understand instantly became clear. However, he quickly reined in his mind to focus on understanding his qi luck. So that's how it is, muttered Wang Wei after a few seconds. He finally understood why his transformation was not complete after so long. Wang Wei had confused the qi luck of a person and the one of a nation. As a matter of fact, there are different kinds of qi lick. There is the human qi luck or innate qi luck. This one, the luck that everyone is born with. This luck to an extent determines your talent, the amount and kind of opportunities you will get during your life, and the chances you are to escape certain dangerous situations based on luck alone. This kind of luck rarely changes and can only go all the way through purple gold. After realizing this, Wang Wei then suddenly realized how precious the Spirit Road trial actually was, as it allowed people to change their innate luck. The second kind of luck is actually called heavenly luck, and it is granted by heaven itself. The qi luck color of these people does not really matter, as they are blessed by heaven themselves. The highest level of heavenly luck is in fact the son of destiny. The third kind of luck is referred to as earthly luck, and this is the category that a dynasty's qi luck falls under. This luck is created by gathering a small portion of destiny or luck from myriad things, people, lands, emotions, desires, etc. This kind of luck is somewhat similar to incense, however, it is not as poisonous due to being more restrictive through karma. As for Wang Wei's black qi luck, this was the result of him being rejected by heaven and earth. And this kind of thing is not as bad as it sounds, because it means that it is very difficult for heavenly Tao to plot against by using fortunate encounters as bait. More importantly, for Wang Wei, who desired to become free and unfettered, it means that he has the chance to control his own luck, and he succeeded. The process of him turning his black qi luck back into purple is a transformation that occurs due to him slowly grasping his fate when it comes to controlling luck. And now that he finally understood all the knowledge needed about qi luck, his transformation was complete, and Wang Wei also developed a new ability. This ability is called a destiny's son, and as the name implies, Wang Wei could forcibly become the son of destiny of any world he is in. Then, his luck would be as legendary and scary as Long Outyen. Everything would become easy for him to achieve. If he wanted some rare herb or material, just follow his instinct and he would eventually discover it. His chances of escaping true mortal dangers would increase dramatically. In general, this ability is heaven-defying. However, Wang Wei was not happy, and he will not use it blindly. As a person who truly understands qi luck, he knew that heavenly luck was actually a big pit. Do you think that heavenly Tao would bless someone with luck for no reason? Of course not. Heaven and earth revolves around the concept of balance, of cause and effect. If something extraordinary happens to someone, then there must be a reason. For example, the title of Son of Destiny sounds very appealing. However, Wang Wei knows that each son of destiny of any world is born or chosen for a reason. And it is usually because the world sensed that a catastrophe is about to happen, so it chose someone as a son of destiny to cultivate in order to fight or prevent the disaster. So, those lucky bastards usually have a rough life despite being lucky, as they have to go through countless trials and tribulations. A perfect example of that was Long Outyen. The heavenly Tao of the Warring Kingdom world chose him as the son of destiny in a desperate attempt to prevent all the participants of the trial from truly taking over the world. Despite the fact that the Heaven Chosens mostly brought positive changes to the world, it did change the fact that they were foreigners, outsiders. So, the world's plan for Long Outyen to rise up and become the one to conquer the world. And maybe in the process, form an alliance with a few Heaven Chosens, and use the advanced resources of their world to better this one. According to the information that he learned from studying qi luck, and after watching the life of this world previous Son of Destiny, Wang Wei guesses that there was a reason that Long Outyen was teleported to Fang Lijuan after the explosion of the secret realm. In all likelihood, Heavenly Tao wanted Long Outyen to seduce Fang Lijuan, then with her unreserved support, Long Outyen would have a better chance of conquering the world. And maybe found a way for this world to evolve from a small thousand world to a middle thousand world. Unfortunately, Heavenly Tao greatly underestimated the heaven chosen of the myriad emperor world. More importantly, it underestimated Fang Lijuan's ruthlessness. It probably thought that with her arrogance, she would not do such a thing. However, as a person who aspires to become great emperor, how could Fang Lijuan not swallow her pride when necessary? No matter how arrogant a person is, in front of endless power and immortality, who can resist? So, after seeing the death of Long Outyen, Wang Wei has a newfound respect for this member of the divine clan. Unlike other members of her clan, she knows when to be arrogant and when to rein in. Of course, Wang Wei is more interested in the talisman that was in Long Outyen's hand. If he guessed correctly, this talisman is very precious. And now that it has fallen into Feng Lijuan's hands, her threat level for the future has greatly increased. After taking a brief moment to think about these things, Wang Wei reined in his mind. Then, he used his secret method to convert earthly luck into innate luck. His chi luck rapidly changed from purple, then to purple gold. After a few minutes, a second color appeared, then a third. Wang Wei spent a few minutes absorbing the luck. He checked his chi dragon, and it had 7 colors, signifying that he reached the 7-color rainbow chi luck, so he smiled. Wang Wei knew that the reason that he reached the maximum level of 7 colors was because of the transformation of the Western Desert. Otherwise, he would only reach 6 colors. One thing that caught Wang Wei's attention was the fact that the 7-color rainbow chi luck is also referred to as immortal luck. Given that more than 7 color of chi luck is referred to as emperor luck, he guessed that immortal luck has something to do with immortal venerables and Tao ancestors. Unfortunately, he only learned the title of that level of luck, but nothing about what immortal venerable actually is. He guessed this has to do with the fact that this world's level is too low, so it does not have any information besides just a name. After absorbing the chi luck, Wang Wei felt that his strength had suddenly increased dramatically. It reached the point that he could kill his previous self with just one punch. Wang Wei knew that this was actually another function of earthly luck. The king of any dynasty can bless himself with the power of the dynasty's luck, thus increasing their strength dramatically. Unfortunately, this kind of ability is only available in medium-small thousand world and above. And it requires the dynasty to refine a luck-condensing artifact in order to be able to use chi luck in such a way. Wang Wei knew that every emperor lineage back home actually has a luck-condensing artifact, and it is usually one of their emperor artifacts that served that role just like in the Tao opening sect. The emperor artifact of Wang Wei's ancestor, Emperor Qi Yuan, served as the luck-condensing artifact of the Tao opening sect. As a matter of fact, Wang Wei is a little lucky that this ability was not available in the trial, otherwise he would have to suffer. When all the other heaven chosen could use this ability in desperation, he would not be able to do the same as his chi luck was still black. And if Ji Song had that ability in the final battle, then Wang Wei would have suffered greatly. As a last result, he probably would have to ask Dong Lifen to control the dynasty's chi luck and channel it through him. However, Wang Wei guessed that even if that method succeeded, there would still be some repercussions. Not to mention that she would actually have to be close to him, thus risk being a liability during battles with her weak strength. After thinking about this, Wang Wei sighed. Then he returned to the capital. Now that he has accomplished everything he came for in this world, the trial is officially over. So, it was time to head back home, as he missed his family greatly. After returning back to the capital, Wang Wei spent a few days making sure everything was fine, then prepared to leave. Of course, many turbulence occurred throughout the territory when the news that the wise sage, His Majesty Wang Wei, was actually leaving soon to the higher realm. Many people cried, many people begged for him to stay, while some blessed him on his journey. As for the officials, they seemed to have organized a protest asking for Wang Wei to reconsider his decision. Even since he announced the news, many of them have been kneeling in front of the imperial palace claiming that they would not leave until His Majesty changed his mind. However, Wang Wei ignored them. More than 4 years ago, he had already warned these people so that they would be ready. On the last night before leaving, Wang Wei was standing on top of the imperial palace looking at the vast territory that he ruled. Then, he took a little trip down memory lane. He remembered how insignificant he was in his previous life compared to now. Back on Earth, he used to slave daily in order to climb up the ladder in his company. And compared with the people of his age, he did not have some success. However, all of these are nothing compared to ruling a dynasty with billions of people. His every word, actions, and slight insinuation could determine the fate of so many people, the fate of an entire world. Not to mention his strength. With his current ability, he could probably destroy the entire Earth with just one punch. Forget the Earth, he doubts whether the entire solar system could survive his world-breaking fist. And that was far from his limit. When he one day manages to prove the Tao, not just one small thousand world will bow to him, but thousands of them. Especially after absorbing the power of merit, Wang Wei's plan after becoming emperor was finalized. As a result of this plan, his will be spread to myriad worlds and races in the endless void. His name will bring both despair and hope to trillions of lives. He will control the fate of so many people and worlds. This is one of the reasons that he was not so homesick after reincarnating into this world. Compared to his possible future in this world, his life back on Earth was too insignificant. Although he sometimes missed his family back on Earth, he did not mind that much, as he believed that as long as he reached a certain level of strength, he might be able to see them again. As for the passage of time, well, Wang Wei believed that as long as his strength is high enough, time will never be an obstacle for the things he wants to accomplish. While Wang Wei was thinking about his past and future, he heard the sound of someone walking towards him. From the soul fluctuation, he knew that it was Dong Lifan, so he was puzzled why she came to see him this late at night. Dong Lifan came next to Wang Wei, but she did not say anything for a few minutes. She just watched over the beauty of the capital fully lit during the night. Then, she seemed to have made a decision, so she ran into Wang Wei's arm and kissed him on the lips, to his complete surprise. After waking up from his shock, he removed his lips from hers and asked, "Why are you doing this?" Dong Lifan lowered his head before looking him straight in the eyes. "I want to spend the night with His Majesty before you leave." Wang Wei's eyebrow was raised after hearing this, then he said, "You should know that this will not change anything between us." "I know, but this is my choice, and I'm willing to live with it." Wang Wei looked at the confident and stubborn look on her eyes, then he smiled. He lifted up, then headed straight for his dragon bed. The next morning, Dong Lifan woke up. Immediately, she winced a little, then blushed when thinking about how crazy the two of them were last night. She finally understood how powerful His Majesty's fleshly body was. After turning her head to the side, a flash of sadness passed through her eyes when she noticed that there was no one beside her. She sighed, then looked at the blood stain in the sheet. With a wave of her hand, she places it in her space ring, then gets dressed. However, as soon as Dong Lifan finished dressing, Wang Wei walked into her slight delight. "Have you made a decision of what you are going to do?" asked Wang Wei calmly. After a few seconds, she replied, "I decided to stay in this world, after all, it is my home. However, I hope your Majesty can take my master with you. Her dreams and aspirations are not the same as mine." Wang Wei nodded, not too surprised by her decision. Then, he took out the conferred god list and the imperial seal before saying, "In that case, let me give you a departing gift in order to help you achieve your goals." Dong Lifan looked at these two things with a look of shock on her face. She understood the meaning of these two things. It means that she is the legitimate successor of the great Xia dynasty. After pondering for a few seconds, she reached out and took both of them. "Your Majesty, you knew of my plans." Wang Wei smiled before answering, "I always knew that you were an ambitious woman. However, I have to warn you, although I hand over the dynasty to you, whether you can keep it is another matter. Now, technically speaking, this world belongs to the sect I'm from, so no other people have the right to intervene. However, nothing is set in stone. So you have to watch out for possible interference from people in my world." Dong Lifan nodded, knowing that her future was full of challenges. However, she was ready for it. Then, she suddenly asked, "Your Majesty." "You can call me Wang Wei." Dong Lifan hesitated for a while before saying, "Young Master Wang Wei, did you hand over the dynasty as a way to pay off the karma of what happened last night?" Wang Wei was a little caught by surprise by this question, then he answered, "You are partially right. However, the real reason for me doing this is because I want to see how far you can go." After saying this, he took a deep look at her, then held her face and gave her a kiss on the forehead. Afterwards, he left the palace without hesitation. After flying for a few seconds, he saw Li Jun, Yan Liling, Wang Ju, the five-name general, Tai Gang and Yu Siyu, who sighed after seeing Wang Wei coming alone. Is she really not coming? She asked, fully knowing the answer. You know her better than any of us, so you should have anticipated this outcome, replied Wang Wei calmly. Afterwards, he looked into the sky. Soon afterwards, a space crack appeared and swallowed everyone, transporting them in the endless void in front of true monarch Yan Chen. Excellent trial, young master. You completed even better than the sect anticipated. Not just him, all of you did an excellent job, praised the true monarch. While most of the people had a calm smile on their faces, both Tai Gang and Yu Siyu had a look of shock on their faces as this was their first time being teleported. Furthermore, they were told of how powerful this smiling elder actually was. This was a supreme realm powerhouse, the being closest to the great emperor, so they were in awe after meeting. As a result, both of them remained quiet and tried to reduce their presence. Unfortunately, this was not possible as Yan Chen started addressing them next. When you reach our world, something extraordinary will happen to you both. All you need to remember is not to panic, afterwards, you will be greatly rewarded. Wang Wei smiled after seeing this. He expected this kind of behavior from Yu Siyu, but it was odd to see Tai Gang also act this way. After all, the impression this guy gave him was that he did not fear nothing between heaven and earth. This was proven after he decided to challenge him right after watching his battle with Ji Song. Wang Wei looked at true monarch Yan Chen before asking, Supreme Elder, are we leaving the same way we came? No, replied Yan Chen while shaking his head. Since we are the winners of the trial, the Great Wu Imperial Dynasty handed over the Ascension Teleportation Array. Everyone then nodded, so Yan Chen activated the array after everyone was ready. After a few seconds, the entire group only saw the world twisted up and down, then they found themselves leaving the desolate void. Wang Wei immediately realized that he was in the Heavenspan domain, where the Tao opening sect was located. He took a deep breath, thus absorbing a vast amount of spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Oh, the sweet smell of home, said Wang Wei with an excited look on his face. Wang Wei was not the only person that was happy to be back home. All of the members of his group were. After entering the world, a feeling of euphoria suddenly overcame them. It was as if a mother, the entire world, was welcoming its children back home. While the group was rejoicing of finally going home after 15 years, a supreme and powerful will suddenly appeared around them. Then, the will started to invade Tai Gang and Yu Siyu's body to their horrors. Luckily, they remember what true monarch had said to them a few minutes ago. So they each took a deep breath to calm themselves down. However, they were just calm on the surface. That supreme will scan everything part of their bodies. Whether it was their soul, spirit, and even their memories. Of course that supreme will was the heavenly Tao of the myriad emperor world. Every time some foreigners enter the world, it is his job to check out these intruders to ensure that they are not a danger to the world. As such, as soon as it noticed these two, it started to check. It checked their bodies and souls to ensure that there were no curses implanted on these people by some powerful being from the endless void. Then it checked their memories to ensure that these two were not vanguards sent by other powerful worlds in order to acquire the world coordinate of the myriad emperor world. Just by how meticulous Heavenly Tao was, it is obvious that it knows from experience what to look for, so it was very thorough. An act which made Tai Gang and Yu Siyu suffer greatly, as it was not a pleasant experience having all their deepest secrets seen through by someone. However, the process did not last long. After a few minutes, the process was finished. Then, a vast amount of spiritual energy started to enter the bodies of Tai Gang and Yu Siyu. Sit cross-legged and begin to cultivate. This is the reward of Heavenly Tao, instantly yelled Supreme Elder Yan Chen. The two then immediately reacted and followed the instructions. Why are these two getting rewarded? Asked Li Jun to the Supreme Elder. In fact, it was not just him who wanted to know this answer. Everyone else also wanted to know. They can understand the necessary precaution to check the identity of these two. Why would Heavenly Tao reward them? Because of their talent, suddenly said a beautiful voice. However, it was not that of Yan Chen. Everyone looks in a direction of the voice to see Wang Wei's mother suddenly appearing next to the group with them even noticing. Meanwhile Yan smiled happily at the group, before embracing Wang Wei and caressing his face without caring of the weird look the people were giving her. However, unlike previously, Wang Wei was not embarrassed nor did he smile wryly. He just laid in his mother's arms while also embracing her. As a person who has lived 2 lives, he knows the importance of spending time with family. Especially in this cultivating world where seclusion can take thousands of years. More importantly, the cultivation world is more dangerous than anyone can imagine. No one knows for certain what can happen. So he cherished his family greatly. Aunt. Sect madam. All the people who recognized Yan saluted her, to which she just nodded. Mother, what do you mean by talent? Asked Wang Wei, who was still curious about the previous topic. Heavenly Tao will reward certain foreigners that enter our world based on how their talents are. This is an incentive for these people to stay in the world and contribute to it in any way possible. Wang Wei understood what she meant. This was the way that the Heavenly Tao of this world poached talented people from other worlds through promises and bribing. Some countries in his past life did a lot of this in order to quickly develop both their science and technology, but also their economy. The process of breakthrough lasted only a few minutes. However, from the smile on these two's faces, they were more than happy with their rewards. You see, you managed to inscribe more than 300 divine veins on her altar, making her foundation and strength dramatically increase. As for the former Iron Fist King, Tai Gang, his divine veins reached 330. But more importantly, he managed to figure out what chi of good fortune is. As such, as long as he has the proper technique and head into seclusion, he can break through the supernatural realm at any time. After these two finished their transformation, the entire group left for the direction of the sect. As soon as they arrived at the entrance, they saw sect master Wang Tian and a group of elders waiting for them. As soon as they arrived, Li Jun's mother started to cuddle her son. In fact, even Yan Liling was not spared in this large embrace. Unlike Wang Wei's calm look, these two were completely shy. Great Elder Li Jiang patted his son on the shoulder with a smile on his face, while Great Elder Yan Mei smiled at her niece. As for Wang Tian, he looked at his son up and down. Good, good, you did better than during my trial. Then, he proceeded to imitate his wife and played with Wang Wei's gray hair. Wang Wei looked at his father with a speechless look. His eyes seemed to be saying, you are a grown man, why are you acting so weird? He could understand his mother's behavior, but he did not understand why his old man started to act more childish. However, Wang Tian just ignored his son's gaze as he continued to mess up his hair with great pleasure. As a matter of fact, there is a reason that Wang Tian behaves so childlike. It is because he is nearing the supreme realm. So he started to return to a more simplistic nature of himself. He behaves childlike because he is in tune with heaven and earth. His state of mind is returning to a very simple and innocent one so that he can better understand the laws of heaven and earth. Wang Wei decided to ignore his father, so he asked him, "What did you do for your trial?" After pondering for a while, he responded, "Well, I created the Supreme Sword Sect, then spread the Tao of the Sword throughout the entire world." "How was the result?" "Of course I succeeded, however there were a few setbacks in the middle." Wang Tian looked at his wife. "Your mother rallied all the people in the world to encircle me and my sect. Unfortunately, she was no match for me and my loyal sword followers." Meanwhile Yan snorted, "The only reason that you survived that battle so easily was because all the heaven chosen at that time were infighting for control over the alliance." "It doesn't matter how I survived," snickered Wang Tian. "Furthermore, wasn't it you that said that only the result matters, not the process?" Yan stared at her husband before saying, "Do you want to sleep outside today?" Wang Tian smiled leisurely, but he did not say anything else. However, Wang Wei was intrigued as he wanted to know how things ended in the end. "So who was the final winner in the end?" "There was no final winner, or we both were, as me and your father eventually formed an alliance," replied Yan. "What alliance? You basically blackmail me that if I did not ally with you, you would spread saber Dao to fight with me. Wang Wei became puzzled after hearing this. How is that a threat? Wang Tian looked at his son. Practicing the sword was not the same as practicing the saber. It is very hard to start practicing the sword but easy to master. As for the saber, it is easy to start practicing but hard to master. It can take even the most powerful genius of the sword more than 2 years of training in order to become proficient in using the sword and have certain combat power. However, the saber was different. Even a normal person holding a saber can easily use it after a few weeks of practice. If your mother had managed to spread saber Dao throughout the entire world, I would have to spend countless years before sword Dao can reign supreme in the entire world, thus prolonging the time I'd have to spend to reach the rainbow level of Qi luck. So, it was simply not worth it to fight for her for so long when an alliance would allow the two of us to benefit. Wang Wei nodded. However, he guessed that things were not that simple. He guessed that his father probably had developed a little crush on his mother back then, so he easily accepted her deal. Wang Wei knew that he would never accept such a thing. He is open to negotiation, never being forced. This can be seen in how he reacted to Feng Heng's deal. Instead of just accepting, he used the excuse of a fight to slap him straight in his face, showing that Wang Wei has a very petty side. However, this can't be helped. As a person who pursues freedom, nothing he hates more than being forced to do something even if that thing is good or beneficial to him. While all these people reunited with their families, true monarch Yanchen bid goodbye to all of them. He was in a hurry to discuss the details of the trail with the other old guys. In this trial, he watched how the young sect master slowly transformed the entire world into something better, something more efficient. According to the information he heard, this process was called modernization by the young master. Yanchen suddenly remembered the conversation that he had with Wang Wei after the Spirit Road trial. At that time, he thought that the young master only had a preliminary plan on how to change the world, but after seeing what happened in the Warring Kingdom world, Yanchen knew that Wang Wei was not simply talking, he actually had a thorough plan. And he used this trial to test some of his ideas. So Yanchen watched how Wang Wei had to first force these cultivators to integrate the power of cultivation into everyday life. However, as time passed, using incentive and the satisfaction of slowly changing the world, these cultivators were more than happy to help slowly build the Great Xia according to Wang Wei's vision. Many of them came up with ideas of their own, some talked to mortals in order to figure out their needs and create specific origin artifacts for them. In general, the majority of the cultivators were more than happy to help mortals with their ability, as it gave them a sense of accomplishment. And what was the result? A very prosperous dynasty, dramatic increase in population, and more importantly, a rapid development of professions like alchemy, talisman, and refiner. With so many professionals working together, sharing their knowledge and experience, these professions develop at an alarming rate. So Yanchen started to envision what it would be like if the entire myriad emperor world started to develop so rapidly under the young master's guidance. Just like he said back then, their civilization will flourish so much that even the ancient emperor era would not be able to compare. And who would benefit the most from such fast development? Of course, it is their Dao opening sect. Yanchen can foresee that in the beginning of such an era, many of the powerful sects will hesitate to side with the young master. However, at that time, their Dao opening sect will provide their whole support. And as the saying goes, the early bird gets the worm. By doing so, their Dao opening sect will have a large amount of head start before the others, so that when they join down the line, the other factions will never be able to catch up to them. Yanchen 100% believed that these factions will change their mind once they start to see the benefit that their sect receives. As for how he knows how these sects will behave. Simple, just by looking at the way they reacted to all the changes that happened in the trial. To them, the changes that happened in the Great Xia dynasty was simply a marvelous idea to them, a good idea that gave the Great Xia a little edge over the other dynasties. Nothing more, nothing less. And many of them thought that Wang Wei had done too much to mix cultivators with mortals. To them, this was a simple disrespect. So Yanchen sneered at how low the vision of his peers actually were. As a matter of fact, they did not even discover the benefit of the Warring Kingdom world's martial art to low-level cultivators. Their understanding of spirit is a great help people break through the divine altar realm. Their snobbish and prideful attitudes has simply blinded them, resulting in their Tao opening sect benefiting greatly. Supreme Elder, thank you for your hard work. Sect Master, there is no need to thank me. Protecting the young master is my duty. And I would gladly die to accomplish it, replied Yan Qin with a smile. Afterwards, he left and returned to the Supreme Elder cottage. Wang Tian and his family returned to Wang Clan Mountain in order to have dinner with his grandfather, who had a happy smile on his face. After the meal, Wang Chong looked at his grandson with satisfaction. Wei, according to the report of Yan Chen, you did a terrific job in this trial. However, many of your plans cannot be exposed as of yet. Oh, why is that? Simple, the emperor lineages are similar to the noble clans you had to deal with. Things like holding knowledge to a privileged few is how they maintain their strength. So they will never allow anyone to change the status quo. So, if you want to do the exact same thing you did in the trial in this world, your strength has to reach a certain level. Wang Wei sighed as he expected this. In the end, it's all about whether I can prove the Tao in the end. However, Wang Chong shook his head. Being a simple emperor is far from enough. You have to be stronger than an average emperor, you have to become an eternal emperor. Eternal emperor. This kind of knowledge is too early for you to know. Just remember that an eternal emperor is the highest of caliber among all great emperors. Throughout the billions of years of this world, throughout the countless eras, among the thousands upon thousands of emperors that walk this world, the number of eternal emperors can be counted in 2 hands. Wang Wei's eyebrow was raised after hearing this, but he could probably guess the meaning of an eternal emperor. Among all the great emperors cultivated in this world, some of them were simply more extraordinary than others. The feats that they accomplished are simply legendary, leaving an eternal myth regarding their existence. Wang Wei guessed that his grandfather meant that only by being one of these kinds of emperor will he have a chance to accomplish his plans. So he nodded in acknowledgement. What are you going to do with the 2 people that you brought back? Suddenly asked Wang Tian. Well, I plan to train Tai Gang to be my left arm man, so the sect can provide him with the highest of treatment. However, his loyalty cannot be 100% guarantee, so send someone to monitor him for a while, replied Wang Wei after pondering for a while. As for Yu, she seemed to have no ambition besides the desire to cultivate peacefully. So just provide her with the resources she needs and leave her be. Wang Tian accepted his son's recommendation. As for Yu not being required to contribute, it does not matter. Their sect has more than enough resources to raise anybody. Furthermore, Wang Tian could guess the reason that his son made such a decision. After dinner, Yu Yan grabbed her son and started asking him about the trial. So why did you not bring that girl Dong Lifen? You know I was ready to hold a big fat grandson. Wang Wei looked at his mother with a speechless look. Dong Lifen is not the girl for me, and she chose to remain in her world in order to accomplish her ambitions. As for grandson, I'm afraid that you might not hold one for the remainder of your life. What? You do not plan to give me grandchildren? Ever? Asked Yu Yan with a visibly surprised look on her face. This was current news to her. Well, not never, but I do not plan to have children until I succeed in my pursuit of the end of the Tao. That way, I will not be distracted and my children will be born with terrifying talent. I wonder if it's possible to give birth to a great emperor. Back to the topic. By the time I am ready to have children, how long do you think will pass? Yu Yan looked at her son with her mouth open, then she said, So, you are going to watch your mother and father slowly die of old age without giving us a fat grandson to hold. Mother, you do not need to worry about such a thing. With me, it is only a matter of time for our family to become immortal. And even if something were to happen to you, Dad and Grandfather, when I become so powerful, it will be an easy matter for me to reverse samsara and bring all you back to life. Yu Yan sighed as she knew she could not change her son's decision, as he can be stubborn when it comes to certain decisions that he makes. So she decided not to bring the topic up again. After returning home, Wang Wei spent a few months hanging out with his family. He needed to relax both his body and mind after the trial. Then, he entered seclusion in order to reach the supernatural realm. Inside his seclusion chamber, Wang Wei did not immediately break through the supernatural realm, but took both the Origin Path scripture and the Overlord Fist in order to review all the information he needed. Afterwards, he then started his breakthrough. The first he did was to enter a deep state of meditation, then blend into heaven and earth. The first step Wang Wei's breakthrough is to capture a wisp of qi of good fortune. And what exactly is qi of good fortune? Well, it is the breath or special vibration exuded by heaven and earth. Whether it was the ground, a rock, animals, or plants, all of them have a unique breath or rhythm. After capturing this unique breath, Wang Wei used a special technique to turn them into a qi or energy. Suddenly, a silver energy suddenly appeared in front of Wang Wei. This was the qi of good fortunate. Immediately after capturing it, he controlled it to enter his altar that was in the shape of the temple of heaven. The qi of good fortune rushed straight into the top of the altar, then an ancient lamp suddenly manifested itself. The qi of good fortune entered the ancient lamp, then a multicolored fire appeared. To be precise, the fire had 13 colors exactly. Wang Wei knew that this was the good fortune flame, and it is extremely precious for cultivators in both the divine body and primordial spirit realm. According to normal standard, the maximum number of color a good fortune flame has is 12, but Wang Wei has one more due to his transcendent Tao foundation. After the flame appeared, Wang Wei knew that the first step of his breakthrough was over, then he continued to the second step. Well, in this time, Wang Wei has to do things differently. According to a normal breakthrough, he should have combined all his divine veins into origin pattern, then opened his Niwen aperture to create his sea of consciousness. However, many of his divine veins were inscribed in his souls, so Wang Wei decided to open his Niwen aperture first. So he controlled the good fortune flame to move to the place in the middle of his forehead. Then, Wang Wei felt like his head exploded. It was like the Big Bang that created the universe. However, instead of creating an entire universe, only his sea of consciousness was opened. There Wang Wei saw his massive purple cloud-like soul with gray edges, and many divine veins inscribed on them. As soon as Wang Wei opened his sea of consciousness, a terrifying pressure from his soul suddenly enveloped the entire Tao opening sect. All the disciples and elders including the true monarchs felt a terrifying and heavy pressure on them. It was as if their souls were under heavy pressure. Their thinking became increasingly slow, and many weak disciples even passed out. What's more, the soul pressure seemed to want to expand beyond the sect. And with its power, it might even spread throughout the entire world. However, Wang Wei remembered the warning that the battle maniac emperor gave him, so he quickly controlled his soul pressure, and did not allow it to spread beyond his cultivation room. This act was a relief to many of the disciples of the sect. Knowing that the sacred sun was in the midst of a breakthrough, many people looked in the direction of the Wang clan mountain with awe and envy. Meanwhile, in the Supreme Elder Cottage, Wang Chong felt the mighty pressure that his grandson release, so he muttered, it seemed that Wei was not a simple person in his past life. Yes, Wang Wei's family has already guessed that their son was actually reincarnated, and that he even woke up to the memory of his past life at an early age. After all, many of Wang Wei's actions and random sayings are just weird, or not normal, especially after the things he did in the trial. Many of the ideas and concepts he used were not something that can be just attributed to genius. These ideas came from an entirely different civilization. Adding to that his powerful soul, his parents already guessed that he was reincarnated. However, they did not care about such a thing. After many years of observing, they can see that their son truly loves and cares for them. More importantly, Wang Wei displayed no great attachment to his past life, which greatly relieved his family, especially his mother. Yu Yan did not want to compete for her son's affection with another mother. Back to the cultivation room, after controlling his soul, Wang Wei continued his breakthrough. All the 720 divine veins in both his soul and altar combined into one pattern, then the pattern relocates itself on the ancient lamp. Wang Wei knew how important this origin pattern was, as it will be used to cultivate in the supernatural realm. In order to reach the peak of this realm, a total of 50 origin patterns is needed. More importantly, the origin pattern is used as a fuel source for the good fortune flame. The more there are, the brighter that the flame burns. After checking that everything was over, Wang Wei then proceeded to the last and easiest step, turning origin qi into origin essence. By controlling the good fortune flame, Wang Wei slowly burned his origin qi, thus further refining and processing his origin qi, turning into a higher quality of energy. After an unknown amount of time, his vast origin qi was left with only a quarter of its original volume. However, the quality was more than 100 times more than before. Moreover, Wang Wei knows that origin essence is not a simple transformation of origin qi. Origin essence allows cultivators to have many weird or uncommon abilities. If origin qi was still in the category of martial arts, then origin essence reached the level of immortal arts. With it, cultivators can use all kinds of strange, powerful, and inexplicable spells or origin abilities. After the transformation was finished, Wang Wei watched how his infinite divine Qi only produces origin essence now instead origin qi. He knew that his breakthrough was over. Then, he opened his eyes while looking at his floating body that was in the air. Unlike his previous ability to fly due to control of spiritual energy of heaven and earth, now flying was like a natural ability that did not require any learning or practicing. To be more precise, flying in the divine altar was like Wang Wei created a few invisible jet packs on his body, but now, flying was as natural to him as a bird. It was like another one of his limbs. Wang Wei left his seclusion, then he flew straight into the sky. Boom! Boom! Instantly, he broke through the speed of sound and reached Mach 5 while flying. However, Wang Wei had a frown on his face after checking his speed. According to information he knew, typical supernatural realm cultivators will only have a speed of Mach 1, meaning his speed was 5 times that of them. However, he was not satisfied. You should know, back in the trial, Jisong used his gravity control technique to reach the speed of Mach 5 for a brief moment. And Wang Wei himself can reach Mach 7 while running on his feet, with his powerful fleshly body. So he was not satisfied with this speed. One downside of the ancient desolate body refining scripture is that only after finishing refining the organs can a cultivator use the fleshly body to actually fly, otherwise one has to jump very high in order to travel. However, he did not pay too much attention to this problem. All he has to do is cultivate a technique specially designed for speed, and everything will be fine. Furthermore, the sect had an emperor scripture by the name of a rainbow escape art that perfectly fit his requirement. After checking his flying ability, Wang Wei then checked his divine sense. With a wave of his thought, his consciousness exited his body and started to spread all around. As a result, Wang Wei could see everything in the circumference of several thousand kilometers. Whether it was an ant on the ground, or the wind of an insect a few kilometers away, he could observe it. The only places that he could not scan were the places where powerful formations were placed. However, Wang Wei could still sense a few secret spaces, dimensions, or secret realms around the sect that he never existed before. While Wang Wei was having found his newfound ability, his rampant scan of the whole sect brought the attention of his father and many elders of the sect. They all flew in the air watching Wang Wei extending his divine sense without any end, and they all marveled at his talent. "What a powerful divine sense," said Great Elder Li Jiang. "It is not worse than any of us," commented Great Elder Yang Mei. While the other people were talking, Wang Tian had a frown on his face, then he used his divine sense to communicate with his son. "You better stop spreading your divine sense. Although it is as strong as a saint, you have still not reached that realm. Without a primordial soul and the power of law, it would be difficult for you to sustain such a large spread without injuring your soul or spirit." Wang Wei then suddenly woke up after hearing this. His father was right, as he was a little too impulsive. Although his soul is strong, he should not abuse it as he sees fit. Furthermore, after his breakthrough, he discovered that his soul was not as powerful as he imagined. However, the quality of it was beyond his understanding. After reining his arrogance, Wang Wei looked to the sky. There he saw massive dark clouds starting to gather. He knew that his heavenly tribulation was coming. While the cloud in the sky brewed, Wang Wei went to the tribulation peak, as he did not want his heavenly tribulation to spread out and harm other people. Furthermore, the tribulation peak can be a backup plan for him in case an emergency occurs. Although Wang Wei did want to use foreign aid to help cross his tribulation, however, given his relationship with Heavenly Tao, he needed to be cautious. After a few seconds of brewing, a white flame suddenly appeared from the cloud and headed straight towards Wang Wei, who had a frown on his face after seeing this. Although he knew that his heavenly tribulation was going to be hard, he did not expect it to be that hard. Wang Wei recognized this white flame as the cleansing purifying flame, and this flame is usually used by heaven to punish devil cultivators that have committed too many sins when they crossed heavenly tribulation. Wang Wei knew that he did not do anything to deserve such treatment. Even his extermination of the demonic beasts in the trial was not enough for heaven to treat him as a sinner. So there was only reason for this. It was because of his transcendent Tao foundation when he broke through the 13th layer barrier of the body refining realm, she muttered to the sky. How petty can you be? That was a long time ago. The tribulation seemed to have heard what he said, then the clouds in the sky suddenly increased again. The clouds that were only covering the entire sect suddenly expanded to cover half the heaven-span domain where the Tao opening sect was located. Wang Wei's corner of the mouth twitched a little after seeing this. In fact, he wanted to say a few more things to taunt heaven, however, he kept his mouth shut. As a person who pursued being free and unfettered, he did not like to restrain himself, however, he is also aware when not to provoke unnecessary trouble for himself, especially now that he is still weak. However, his pettiness made him mark heavenly Tao in his dark book. When he is strong enough, he will deal with it. As for the dark clouds in the sky, it seemed to be furious that Wang Wei did not take his bait, thus giving it a chance to increase the power of the heavenly tribulation. As for Wang Wei, he did not really care about the cleansing purifying flame. Not to mention that this flame is not strong enough to break through his defense, he did not have to worry about the most threatening part of this flame, its purifying effect. Wang Wei did not commit any sins. In the cultivating world, sins are described as cultivators doing terrible things to large numbers of mortals with any reason, or for selfish benefit. So those devil cultivators that like to kill mortals to absorb their blood, flesh, and souls to cultivate strange techniques are considered sinful. Furthermore, Wang Wei did not really care about whether he was a sinner. As a person who pursues ultimate freedom, if one day he decided to kill millions of people, then he would do so. He does not need any justification. Just because he always kept somewhat of a bottom line does not mean that he is a good person. Everything he does has a purpose, but Wang Wei never places any moral restraint on himself. After the cleansing purifying flame reached him, Wang Wei actively opened his defense, allowing the flame to actually reach inside his body. The reason is that he wanted to purify his body of any hidden dangers, and also tempered his bones. So as soon the flame entered his body, Wang Wei groaned due to the intense pain, then started to use the ancient desolate body refining scripture. Few minutes after the white flaming started to burn Wang Wei, a bunch of dark and stinky pus, or impurity, were removed from body and stuck on his skin. Suddenly, Wang Wei felt that he could breathe more easily, and even felt that his lifespan might have increased a little. So he smiled knowing that his plan worked. So he went further and introduced the cleansing purifying flame into his sea of consciousness, hoping to remove the impurities from his soul. However, it seemed to be useless. To be precise, the flame seemed to be terrified to even come close to his soul. So he gave up trying. Next, Wang Wei took out a bunch of sand that shone with a gray luster. This material was known as silver sand, and it was the supreme tier material needed to temper his bones. Normally, it would have taken him a very long time to absorb this material into his bones, but now, he was going to use this heavenly tribulation to increase the speed. During his retreat, Wang Wei had also already found the Tao rhyme of the silver sand, so he easily absorbed it into his bones. Then, he absorbs more cleansing purifying flame into his body to speed up the process. The heavenly tribulation seemed to be angry at Wang Wei's action, so the white flame was replaced by a deep red and dark one. Wang Wei knew that this flame was called heavenly destruction flame, and its purpose was implied in its name: destroy everything between heaven and earth. Wang Wei frowned after seeing this, but he did not care. After the heavenly destruction flame hit him, his innate field was destroyed, then his skin and muscles were burned, leaving only a skeleton with organs inside. Then, many of the bones melted, leaving only the spine. Despite this, Wang Wei did not panic as he knew that he was not dead. He used the method of the ancient desolate body refining scripture, then the melted bones part grew back, an act which angered the heavenly destruction flame. So a battle of destruction and rebirth took place. As long as the heavenly destruction flame burns Wang Wei's bones, it will regrow rapidly. In the process of constant destruction and regrowth, his bones became more and more powerful. And the silver sand started to take its effect as it was rapidly refined. After a few hours, Wang Wei's bones could no longer be burned by the heavenly destruction flame, so he allowed it to burn his spine next. Then, he repeated the same process that his other bones went through until his spine reached the same standard as the other bones. Afterwards, he regrew his muscles, skin, and innate field. After tempering his bones, Wang Wei suddenly felt a magical transformation occurred in his fleshly body. His strength increased dramatically. Right now, his punch could probably reach a few 100 million of force. More importantly, his innate field seemed to have become even more powerful, and it seemed that he could remove it from his body and allow it to protect other people or things around him. More importantly, Wang Wei felt that his regeneration had reached a new different level, so he tested out to see. He took out a low-grade heaven-tier sword from his space ring and chopped one of his fingers without hesitation. The reason that he chose a heaven-tier weapon was because they are considered law weapons, and only used by Void Shatter Realm cultivators. Only this level of weapon can actually easily break his defense. A top-grade Earth-tier weapon which is used by Primordial Spirit Cultivator would take forever to cut off even one of his fingers. After cutting his finger, Wang Wei watched how after a few seconds, the bone in his hand regrew back, followed by the muscles and skin. The whole process did not even take 3 seconds, however, it looked very creepy. Wang Wei smiled as he did not care about how things looked. He was genuinely happy as he knew that his fleshly body had reached the realm of regenerating limbs. Now the only weakness in his body was actually his internal organs, however, that problem will also be fixed in the future. After finishing checking his body, Wang Wei looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky. The heavenly destruction flame was still falling on him, however, they had no effect. Wang Wei's plan was to use this heavenly tribulation to also start tempering his heart, however, he knew that heavenly destruction flame was not suitable to do so. The cleansing purifying flame was way better for the job. After thinking about this, Wang Wei realized that this tribulation was useless to him, so he clenched his hand before throwing a punch. Boom! A massive shockwave traveled from Wang Wei's hand, then the sky exploded. All the tribulation clouds that covered millions of miles were scattered. An angry roar could be heard from the heavens, however, there was a hint of unwillingness in that voice. No matter what, the outcome was that clouds were dispersed, and the heavenly tribulation was finished. Wang Wei then looked inside his sea of consciousness, where he saw 3 lights of different color hanging there. Wang Wei put on a new robe before looking at the destruction caused by his heavenly tribulation. To his surprise, the entire mountain was completely fine. There was nothing destroyed, no burn marks. Nothing. This was probably because of all the formations that were arranged in this mountain. So Wang Wei nodded before flying back to his cultivation room. Meanwhile, all the disciples of the sect had a look of shock on their faces. All they saw was massive dark clouds covering the entire sect, then massive pillars of white and dark red flames kept falling on the tribulation peak. Many people wondered whether a devil cultivator had infiltrated their sect, but they heard news that the young sect master was actually going through tribulation. As a result, many people became worried for Wang Wei when they saw how powerful that heavenly tribulation was. They wondered if he would be able to pass this tribulation. If it was not the formations in the tribulation peak that prevented both the cleansing purifying flame and the heavenly destruction flame from spreading outwards, heaven knows what kind of destruction this heavenly tribulation would have caused. Wang Wei returned to his cultivation room to finish the final step of his breakthrough, acquiring his innate talent. Wang Wei looked at the 3 floating lights in his sea of consciousness. These 3 represented 3 different talents, which was a surprise to Wang Wei. He concentrated on these 3 lights, then his 7-color rainbow Chi Luck Dragon flew straight into these 3 lights, which further intensified their brightness. As such, Wang Wei's sea of consciousness, which was purple in color, shone an additional 3 colors, gray, black and white, and green. After his Chi Luck baptized his new talents, the 3 light spots turned into 3 different runes, signifying that these talents have been concocted. According to Wang Wei's calculation, the whole process took him 3 days. Then, a message was sent into his mind telling him the name of the talents, what they are capable of and what grade they are. According to Wang Wei's knowledge, innate talents are divided into 4 grades: normal, growth, extraordinary, and taboo. Normal talents are the worst of the bunch. These talents usually accompany the owner only during the supernatural realm, then become useless. Of course, a normal talent is still better than no talent at all. Growth talent, as the name implies, is a talent that can slowly grow and develop by the owner. Although the starting point of growth talents are low, they have the possibility to reach terrifying heights. It is all based on the ability of the person who holds the talent. Extraordinary talents are very powerful and can accompany the owner throughout their entire cultivation path. Furthermore, they can also grow and develop, although it is often unnecessary to do so. As for taboo, well, they are extremely powerful, mysterious, and often heaven-defying. It is not impossible for a taboo innate talent to grant a cultivator the power to bring back the dead back to life. However, taboo talents always have a price to pay. More often, these talents are a one-time ability. Meaning, after using it once, the owner will not be able to do it again, and the talent will be gone as. Another possible side effect of taboo talents is they require lifespan to use, or a part of the user's body, or to even sacrifice their entire lives. So, although taboo talents are powerful, they are very unstable. As for Wang Wei, he received 2 growth talents and 1 extraordinary talent. The green rune in his sea of consciousness represents his pain talent. Wang Wei was speechless after knowing the effect of this talent. For once, this talent allows him to increase the pain that his enemy feels when he attacks them. According to his guess, this talent's purpose is to make his attack so painful that it renders his enemies incapable of fighting. Or at the very least, weaken them greatly due to pain. Another ability of this talent is that the more pain that Wang Wei endures, the stronger his battle strength can increase. Well, Wang Wei guessed that the reason he has such a talent was probably because of the 18 level of hell that he experienced in the 3rd pagoda trial. And probably because he cultivated the Overlord Fist. His 2nd growth talent is called Life and Death Wheel. Although this talent has a cool name, it is not as powerful as it sounds. This talent allows Wang Wei to absorb any form of energy to heal himself. For example, by absorbing the spiritual energy between heaven and earth, he could heal a lot of his injuries. To Wang Wei, this talent was a little wasted due to his powerful regenerative ability granted by his powerful fleshly body. However, Wang Wei could use it to superpose to his regeneration. For example, it would probably take him a few minutes to regrow his arm in a battle. However, with the addition of this talent, it would only take him a few seconds if not instant. In the level of battles that Wang Wei will have to participate in the future, the difference between a few splits of seconds can decide life and death. As for the reason that he has this talent, it was because of his understanding of death during the 2nd pagoda trial. The last talent was actually the one tailored specifically for his fate puppeteer physique. And to be honest, Wang Wei was surprised. This talent was simply too terrible to be just an extraordinary one. The amount of power that this innate talent grants him is simply unimaginable that it was a taboo one. In order to ensure that he did not make a mistake, he had to check for a few minutes. He sighed as he knew that his strength had dramatically increased. He was looking forwards to meeting a worthy opponent that would force him to use this talent. After checking his talent, Wang Wei did not immediately exit his seclusion, but took out a bunch of records about ancient desolate body refining scripture in order to solve a puzzle he had for a while now. According to his previous understanding, he was not supposed to wake up with an ability like the innate field. What's more, after finishing tempering his bones, another ability was awakening. So he was curious about the reason. He was also curious why he did not awaken one after tempering his muscles. After checking the records, Wang Wei discovered that this was the result of refining a certain body part to the realm of great perfection. The reason that his muscle did not produce an ability was simply because it did not reach great perfection. So Wang Wei finally understood. He used chaotic space to temper his skin, heavenly flame to temper his bones. Only his muscles used ordinary methods. After figuring out the answer, Wang Wei then checked his new ability. To be honest, this ability was also heaven-defying. This ability, which is referred to as bone clone substitution, allows Wang Wei to create a clone of himself from his bones, and use that clone as a substitution for a deadly attack. In order, if Wang Wei received an attack so powerful that it could instantly kill him, he could use the bone clone to die in his stead. Essentially, Wang Wei has another life granted to him by this ability. Moreover, this clone can also substitute for Wang Wei if he received strange, powerful, and unnoticeable curses or cause and effect spells like wishing spell, karma backlash, or reality erasure. Although these kinds of spells or origin abilities are rare, they still exist. So, with this ability, once these hard-to-guard against attacks reach Wang Wei, they will kill the bone clone first, giving him enough time to react or defend himself. What's more, this clone ability is not a one-time thing. All Wang Wei needs to do in order to recreate one is to absorb very precious and high-tier metals like the silver sand or deep copper. If it was any other normal cultivators who received this talent, they would be anxious about where to find these rare minerals. However, all Wang Wei has to do is ask and someone from the sect will hand the materials he needs to him. This is the benefit of being a second-generation rich in the cultivating world. Well, technically speaking, his family has been rich for countless generations. But that's not important. After checking that everything was all right, Wang Wei started thinking about how he is going to temper his muscles to the realm of great perfection. The best method would be to wait until he breaks through the divine body realm and goes through heavenly tribulation again. However, that would take too long. However, soon, an idea came to his mind as he knew that the opportunity he wanted would soon arrive in front of him, so he muttered with an evil smile, "Let's see if the fish was hooked by my bait after so many years."